not a fire in this top area of the evacuation area, for instance, they're telling you you're not going to have time to get out of there if the fire does come to you. So the mandatory evacuation orders are there to keep you safe. It's for you to get out now because of the speed and severity with which these types of fires are moving. So as you can see, if we zoom in a little bit further, the Stone Canyon Drive area into Eagle Ridge Road, this is just to the west of Lyons Elementary School and Main Street Broadway here in Lyons. This is the area that is under mandatory evacuation. If you are seeing this right now and you live in this area on Eagle Ridge and Stone Canyon Drive, you are being told to immediately pack up your things and get out. As you can see, it extends up to Eagle Ridge Road to where Eagle Ridge Road becomes Lewis Lane, through Stone Canyon Mountain Drive into Red Rock Canyon Road, which dead ends kind of up at the top at Indian Mountain. And then on the opposite side, where we get to Thunder Road, Chimney Hollow Road, Dakota Ridge Road, and then Indian Mountain Road, which does dead end toward the top end of the north side of the mountain as well. That evacuation order continues along Little Thompson River, where Dakota Ridge Road eventually becomes Dry Creek Drive, and that's where that road dead ends. And if you are on the north side here, we haven't gotten any voluntary evacuation orders just yet. These are mandatory, folks. Voluntary orders are typically shaded in yellow. They're typically telling you that you need to budget time to be able to leave, gather your things in case your area does move to red and you are asked to immediately get out. If you are in this area right now along Stone Canyon Drive, Eagle Ridge Road, Lewis Lane, and the Indian Mountain area, you are being told to leave immediately. We're still working on trying to get evacuation sites specifically for those that are in this area and have to get out. But what we do know is that this is about a 30-acre fire as of right now. We're working to get a little bit more information on those evac sites, and I don't want to ignore what is going on up in the Alexander Mountain fire, because as you can see, this imaging that we have gotten is significantly larger than what it was yesterday. And again, as we drop the opacity down, those can be a variety of signatures. Thermal imaging is not an exact science, folks, so if you see a dot of red here, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a fire in this particular area. It could mean smoke, it could mean a hot spot, it could mean an ember. But what we actually do see is within here, this is the last thermal imaging of the line. So you can see the Alexander Mountain fire that is just north of Cedar Cove on the southern end. But what we're starting to get is northward movement of this fire. Some areas of Masonville have already had evacuation orders put on them. Some are still in voluntary evacuation order areas. But as you can see, this used to be a fire line that sat kind of right around the top of Alexander Mountain, and it is moving a little bit further up. So let's take it back over to the desk, because I know you guys have a lot more. We've got reporters that are currently fanning out and getting up to the area, trying to make sure that you at home stay as safe as possible and get up to the minute information that we can provide you here. So guys, we'll go back over to you, and in the meantime, we'll continue looking for any other updates that we can give you here from the desk.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much for that report. So again, we're following all of this breaking news, and not one now, but two different fires that are burning in Colorado. This is video now back live with our copter. They had previously moved out of the area above the Stone Canyon fire that's burning north of Lyons to make room for the aerial resources that you can actually see that are coming in to assess the fire, but then also drop down some of the retardant there to help with the flames that you can see again in this video live coming to you, this picture live from copter. There are certainly flames burning. You can see at least two different aircraft that have been dropping down retardant. We know at least one home has burned in this fire. As for a cause, as for acreage, those are questions that we are going to ask right now. That information is not available, but as you can tell, a lot of smoke is also coming from this fire. One of your reporters that is going to help us continue with our coverage, Gabriela Vidal, she shared on Twitter, X, a short time ago as she was making her way north on I-25. She can actually see both of these wildfires, both of these fires burning. They're so close, but also just with how much smoke is being put out into the air right now from these two different fires. This is now the video from earlier that our copter shot. There's one of the drops you'll see here in just a moment of the retardant being dropped into the area of Stone Canyon. This is burning near Lyons. We know that there are several evacuations that are mandatory right now in the areas of Eagle Canyon, Eagle Ridge, and of course Stone Canyon. It's pretty remarkable to see all of our firefighters and the different resources that are now battling two different fires that are actually relatively close to each other. Here, now you can see just how close these flames are getting to so many different homes there. This is actually the fire that's burning near Lyons. So we only have the one video, not on the left, not on the right, but that shows you just the intense flames, the dry conditions that this fire is burning in. We want to go ahead and get on over to our meteorologist as well.
Yeah, just spectacular looking at the work being done by the aerial attack there, Joe. We love to see, we're so grateful to see the air support that we're seeing out there today, because we know that that is just critical to getting a handle on these two fires that we have that are going now. Let's talk a little bit about the weather. And I know we were talking last night, keeping a close watch on the wind, and there's a threshold that we wanted to stay below.
We want to stay below 25. Today, we tick it up just a notch. You're looking at us 20 to 30 miles per hour. And it looks like that changed based off some of that copter video we're seeing. And let me show you what I'm looking at here. This is our radar. This is normally what would pick up on rain, but you can use it to actually watch the smoke plume and see how the dispersion of the smoke is going, how the direction of it is going. And there's the westerly component, and it's certainly stronger winds today. We didn't see this yesterday. It was very weak. A lot of the smoke gets stuck in the same area. So the winds, they've intensified for today. This is now the Lyons fire. Here we are. The winds again really doing their job, dispersing the smoke, and that's not necessarily a good sign. And then what we also will watch is air quality concerns. As all this plume of smoke has to travel somewhere, it's something that's going to be of great concern. Let's look at relative humidity. Prayers for everyone. You saw those houses right near the structure. And the concern is when you look at these relative humidity values, single digits today. Here's Lyons. If you're just joining us, this is the new area we'll be keeping a close eye on. And here's Loveland, where we were looking at yesterday. Yesterday's relative humidities were up towards about 15 to 20%. What is relative humidity? It's a measurement of water vapor in the atmosphere. That's a lot of big words. All that it means is, as an ember pops out of a bonfire, think a fire in your backyard, will it be suppressed by the atmosphere, or will it maintain its heat and be able to travel? And we're looking at 7 and 8%, so it will certainly be able to travel. And that's a box we checked that we couldn't fully do for the day yesterday. Winds are very marginal. It's very similar to yesterday, but our potential is up to about 30 miles per hour. You see Lyons, gusts of about 24 at this point, Estes Park 16, and that would put our Alexander fire at about 20 mile per hour with wind gusts as well. Here we go. We got Futurecast. Let me put it into motion and show you what we watch. Wind potential for today. Yesterday, let's add, it was a bit below what we forecasted. It was more so 15 to 20. Today, it's 20 to 30 miles per hour. Jumping ahead through about midnight tonight, this is the concern. We still see our pockets of wind gusts in excess of 25 miles per hour. Now, yesterday, our winds at midnight, for example, were about 4 miles per hour. So we're about 5 times the wind strength overnight that we were. And we saw how that handled the Alexander fire, doubling in acreage. So winds will be something we pay close attention to. What I can tell you, by tomorrow afternoon at this time, it's a rinse and repeat for the 3rd day in a row. So watching the fire growth for yesterday and today, we can assume weather-wise similar impacts will be on tap for the day tomorrow. Another factor that we will have in full force for tomorrow is temperatures. Triple digits in Longmont, but Loveland and Lyons right near our fires at 99 degrees apiece. I look at this as any of the recent rain that we got, which we've had none, but this would be your flash fry. This would take any of the moisture out of the storms. With all of this said, red flag warnings, guys, they have been issued through 8 o'clock tonight. Use extreme caution. Even across 25, not quite included in this, but Karen and Kelly, we are watching weather conditions that today check all 3 boxes, and that's why it's prompted red flag warnings.
Absolutely. It doesn't take much to spark a fire. Thank you so much for that report, Joe.
Your reporter for all of northern Colorado, Dylan Thomas, joins us now. And Dylan, we know you've been reporting on the Alexander Mountain fire since you first spotted it yesterday. So give us a good idea of where your location is for all the viewers so we know exactly where you are and what you're seeing.
Karen, we are currently located at the Sweetheart Winery, which has given us permission to be here, even though the rest of their property is closed down to anyone else other than evacuees and law enforcement. But I'm going to step off camera real quick and give you some better view of this. Can you actually, our photographer Dale Atchison might be able to zoom in and see the helicopter heading in toward the fire right now. And there are some visible flames that our camera might or may not be able to pick up from this area. So pretty much this is western Loveland, right before we get toward the mouth of the Big Thompson Canyon, where this fire is largely taking place. Now, the thing I want to point out is that I'm not sure exactly where Dale is zoomed in right now, but the left-hand side of the fire, which is the south side of the fire, that's where it was largely contained to yesterday or staying. And overnight and into today, it has really spread to the north, probably by more than a mile or two. And in the last 10 or 15 minutes, I would say that the winds have shifted. They were really, the flames were causing the smoke to really billow on the north side of it. And in the last 10 or so minutes, we have seen the wind shift to the south and a lot more of that fire activity pick up on the south side. We know there have been more evacuations now, mandatory evacuations to the east side of this fire, which is now only about one ridge line away from coming up and over into the communities on the west side of Loveland, but luckily that is not the case at this time right now. We do know there are mandatory evacuations for a lot of people in this area. You can head west into Estes Park in the fairgrounds area, or you can head east to the Foundations Church, which is more in the center of the city of Loveland. I spoke with some people there earlier today who were saying that they're very thankful for these opportunities to be able to stay safe while they're waiting for firefighters to protect their homes. One couple telling me that they have faith that God is going to be protecting them in this situation through those firefighters as well. We have seen airdrops taking place today once again, fire retardant, I should say, and buckets from water as well from helicopters. This fire, as of last checked, as last update, I should say, is creeping up toward 1,900 acres in size, which is double the size of what we heard earlier this morning, right about 9 a.m., showing how quickly this fire can spread, but still a lot of people hopeful that there aren't structures burning. We are still waiting to hear if there may be any at this time, but as of right now, it's our understanding that no structures have been lost.
That's such great news, Dylan. Such a relief to all of those families and homeowners that are out there right now at Foundations Church, of course, just waiting to hear word on what is taking place there.
Absolutely. We know it's not the same, though, for the Stone Canyon fire, which is burning near Lyons. We have confirmed information that at least one structure has burned. We're also learning about new evacuations. Let's get right on over to Andrew Hobner. He's on the desk. So, Andrew, where are those evacuations now?
Yeah, so as we had shown you in really the last half hour or so, if we pop up the map for you, this area here around Dakota Ridge Road, it wasn't initially on the first set of maps under a mandatory evacuation order. It is now. So as we zoom in a little bit further, you're going to see right on 5th Street up here in Lyons, or at least the Lyons area, where 5th meets Dakota Ridge Road going into Moss Rock Drive and Redstone Court. That area was not initially under an evacuation notice. It now is under a mandatory evacuation notice. You can see street closures up Stone Canyon Drive through Lewis Lane, but this is kind of the area here along the St. Vrain Supply Canal and 5th Street that kind of runs along Rabbit Mountain. It's actually 55th Street, excuse me. That brings us over to the Rabbit Mountain area. It used to be that right along this area of Indian Mountain, just to the right of where Noland is labeled, that was not currently under an evacuation notice. It is now. Now, it is worth noting that we have crossed into, I believe, a county line here. So this is going to probably become a multi-agency fire as it continues to spread. We still don't have a specific number of acres past the original 30 that we were being given, but we do know now that the Boulder Office of Disaster Management is calling this the Stone Canyon fire. So we now have the Alexander Mountain fire that is up by Loveland. We have the Stone Canyon fire that is down here in Lyons. And as we mentioned, just one more zoom in here for you, Moss Rock Drive area, Dakota Ridge Road area, Redstone Court area, that is all under a mandatory evacuation notice now. One last thing I want to show you before we actually go back to the desk. I know we got a reset here at 3 o'clock. To receive text alerts here from ODM, if you live in this area, you text BOCO info, that's BOCOINFO, to 888 777. On the ODM site, there's also going to be road closure updates and evacuation notices. As you can see, the area of Eagle Ridge is under a mandatory evacuation notice. It has been expanded. There are other closures that are occurring in air units, as we have seen through our copter video, that have been dispatched. If you get those text alerts, what that allows is for you to get a direct line to your phone letting you know that there is a voluntary evacuation, a mandatory evacuation, where the fire is. All of those pieces of information that are extremely helpful will be going directly to you. So I want to give it back to you guys. This is what we have now. I know we're going to reset at the top of the hour, and we're going to make sure that we keep an eye on any of the evacuation notice changes that occur.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much. And we appreciate you walking all of our viewers through that. And they can access all of those websites themselves, too, if they have family or friends up there and they want to revisit those sites before we actually get back to that. You can check out all of those websites. We have all of that information for you at cbscolorado.com, so you can get what you need to know about these two wildfires that are now broken out. Taking a look at some video from Stone Canyon fire evacuations. And Kelly, I know you were out here a little bit before I was out here with you, and this one broke out, gosh, not too long ago.
Not at all. Just over an hour ago was when the first initial reports came out from Boulder, the Boulder County Sheriff. This video is really difficult to see, something we've sadly seen too many times before here in Colorado, of what appears to be a home, at least a couple vehicles that are now destroyed and lost in this Stone Canyon fire that started just before 2 o'clock today. We know that Boulder County Sheriffs, they've responded very quickly. We also know that there has been an attack by firefighters on the ground, but certainly from the air as well, to try to get these flames under control. This fire burning in the area of Lyons. We just heard from Andrew where he's explaining a lot of those evacuation orders that are in place, and you can understand why by looking at this video, why they're mandatory.
Right. Yeah. What we don't know, Kelly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we don't know if these two fires are actually connected, right?
Sure.
We don't know if, you can assume because Lyons isn't too far away, but it isn't directly tied to this vicinity. There is space and gaps between where there is no fire.
Right, exactly. And we were Andrew was highlighting that earlier, that there's enough space then for aerial crews to get in between. But it's great that you bring that up, Karen, because your reporter, Gabriela Vidal, taking this video, sharing it on social media just a short time ago, where you can actually see both fires just based on the amount of smoke. The Alexander Mountain fire putting up quite a bit of smoke there on the right hand of your screen, and then you can see a bit of the darker smoke there on the left. That is coming from the Stone Canyon. So even though they're not connected, they certainly are close, and both of these fires that are burning right now.
We know it's hot and dry out there. No secret how dry we've been here in Colorado. Taking a live look at a map here, kind of giving you the idea of the two locations of these fires. The little bit of good news we have right now is that we are still staying under that threshold of that 25-mile-per-hour red flag warning for the wind. So we're very thankful for that. Also, the air support that has been able to get up and continue to fight this from the air. We know slurry and water critical in getting a hand on fires like this.
Absolutely. Same thing with the volunteers, which we saw yesterday, helping with evacuations of all of our animals and pets and anybody who might need assistance getting out of harm's way. For both of these fires now, there's the Alexander Mountain fire burning west of Loveland, and now this Stone Canyon fire, which is burning near Lyons. And we, of course, will continue to bring you updates as we learn more.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you. Stay with us. for there. Thank you so much for being with us here on CBS Colorado as we continue covering the breaking news of these two wildfires. A second fire sparked near Loveland. And you see your reporter, Karen Morford, there, of course, watching the Stone Canyon fire that's near Lyons.
Yeah, absolutely. Karen, we know you and I just talked briefly, but now I understand that you have spoken with a man who's actually evacuating from this fire near Lyons. What is he telling you?
Well, Kelly, we're actually just off of Highway 36, a few miles from where you would take a road up to that neighborhood. So a lot of the folks who have been evacuated have come to this area and they're watching this fire. You can see from behind me that this is a good vantage point to see what is happening with that fire. The folks that we spoke to actually live on Indian Mountain, which is just to the east of Stone Canyon Mountain right there, where you can see a majority of the flames. So they were evacuated from Indian Mountain just about an hour or so ago, and they came straight here because they knew they could see their house from this point. They got here, they parked on the side of Highway 36, and then they started looking for their home. It is completely covered in smoke, so they actually can't see their home right now, but they are crossing their fingers that it is not moved up onto Indian Mountain. Obviously, you guys have a different vantage point with the helicopter there, but from what we're seeing, the smoke continues to move east, and these folks are sitting here and they're watching and they're waiting for any information about their homes there on Indian Mountain. Now, we also know from speaking with that couple that Boulder Sheriff was up in that neighborhood right as this fire was getting started, as that smoke became visible. They went home to home, even though many of these homes are on large parcels. They were going home to home, knocking on doors, making sure that folks knew that it was time to get out. So we asked them, did you have any time to get stuff together? Were you able to, gather your belongings? Did you have a go bag ready? They said that this was so quick that they just left their home. They maybe grabbed a couple of financial documents and then they came straight here. One thing I do want to point out to you guys, and I'm sure you can see just based on the helicopter though, is the wind. I was going to pull my hair back, but I wanted to show you this wind right now is actually very strong where we're at on Highway 36. That's very concerning for the folks that we're talking to who are sitting here, who are watching as that smoke moves east and as those flames move east. At times we can see those flames pretty visibly. We can see that black smoke, which is, not a good sign from my experience covering a number of wildfires here in Colorado. And so that's when everybody's kind of gritting their teeth, just hoping that soon we'll get some information about how, if any, containment on this fire. We're going to continue to talk to folks. I do want to have my photojournalist show you just the number of people who are parked along Highway 36 here across the street. We have a number of different vehicles kind of starting to line up here because many of these folks have found this as a vantage point to kind of watch and see what's happening on that ridge up there. They're all waiting to see, if there's any information that they can get from some of these fire officials. It's got to be tense moments. And, I spoke to that couple again. I don't know if we have any sound from them that we can roll for you guys, but they were they were just very cautious and very trying to stay optimistic about their home. They've seen this before living up in this area. They've been watching as the Alexander Mountain fire grows in Loveland. There's just a lot of questions. They also know that this time of year with the dry conditions, with no rain and with this wind, that pretty much anything can spark one of these fires. And so certainly something that they all keep in mind living in this area. Again, they're sitting here, they're watching, they're waiting. We are as well trying to get more information from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office about just how big this fire is, about any containment. We've seen a number of drops on this fire already, very quickly on top of this fire. And so we are going to, again, stay in touch with them and get any information to you as soon as we can.
Well, Karen, looking at where you are, clearly you're in an area where you're at a safe distance. It is hard to watch all that dark smoke billowing behind you, and certainly all of those homeowners or people who might live in that area watching that along with you. As you made your drive there to that area near Lyons from Denver, did you see quite a few people trying to get in? For the evacuation zone? What was the drive like, too?
You know, Kelly, as I was trying to reach you by phone, and we just didn't have a good amount of service to get through to you. We were seeing a number of people headed this way. Highway 36 is busier than, in my experience, I've seen it. I've been up in this area quite a bit covering stories. Highway 36 is very busy. I don't know if all of these folks are trying to get up to that area, but right now there's no way to get in. There is a roadblock, as far as we understand, just a little bit more north here on Highway 36 at Highway 66, and that is where everyone is being told to wait, to evacuate to. We haven't also heard yet where these folks should go if they do need to find an evacuation center that they may need to stay in long term. So we're all working on getting that information. We're going to actually make our way a little bit closer to where this road closure is. We're seeing more fire crews coming down Highway 36 right now, so we know that this is just, an important response for this area. We're seeing so many different officials, different crews that are headed this way. This is certainly, something that they did not want to have to respond to, given exactly what we're seeing just further north here. Kelly, Karen, back to you.
All right, Karen Morfitt reporting near Lyons for us. Thank you so much. Continue to stay safe there yourself.
Yeah, we are going to continue to see all those rescue and response crews turning in as more crews are freed up, and they come from all over the state to help battle these 2 wildfires that we have here now in Colorado. We want to head over to the desk. The desk, of course, is our spot where all of our information comes in. Andrew Hobner, your reporter, working that desk for us right now. And Andrew, I know you're kind of keeping a close watch on all the road closures and all the areas right now, the evacuation sites for where new neighbors need to move out of their homes as quickly as they can. If you could walk us through some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that we want to give everybody is the newest piece of news. That is the Stone Canyon fire evacuation point that is now at the Boulder County Fairgrounds. You can take my screen in full if you'd like, so we can kind of highlight some of the particular text so people can see. It's typically easier to see it than to just hear it. If you get both, that's even better. So the evacuation point that's set up by the Office of Disaster Management for Boulder County, it's going to be at the Boulder County Fairgrounds in the exhibit building. Now, there's also the Animal Evacuation Center. That is going to be at the fairgrounds as well. That's 9595 Nelson Road in Longmont. We've also heard some situations on the scanners of people having to get animals out. This is, of course, a ranchland area where people do keep animals on property. And so if you have them and you are evacuating out of the mandatory zone, you go to this address on Nelson Road in Longmont. That's the Boulder County Fairgrounds in the exhibit building. So let's take you right now to the actual evacuation zone map. As you can see, the fire is right on top of Lyons, in the actual township of Lyons. It bumps up right against Highway 36 here, and it goes up to Stone Canyon Drive as well as Eagle Ridge. Now, this map just did disappear red, but the reason that I wanted to go in that tight is show you that these are all road closures in addition to the actual evacuation zone. So not only can you not get in because it is a mandatory zone, those roads are closed likely for emergency services to be able to get up to the top and be able to fight this fire effectively. Now, it does pop over into Nolan. This evacuation zone continues on the opposite side of Indian Mountain. So that's up where 55th Street is here, and 55th goes into Dakota Ridge Road. So not only do you have evac zones on the west side of Indian Mountain, you now have them on the east side of Indian Mountain. So if you're on Dakota Ridge Road or you're on Moss Rock Drive, Redstone Court, you see all of these areas so heavily in red. These are all evacuation zones, even up to the north side here on the top end of Dakota Ridge Road. That eventually becomes some portions of Chimney Hollow Road. That south end of Chimney Hollow is also under an evacuation order as well, as Indian Mountain Road. So let's continue to show you some of the other components here of this fire. So what we have and what we've been showing you is thermal imaging that is actually coming from NASA and the U.S. Forest Service. This is publicly available information, folks. You can find this on our website, but it's important you know what you're looking at before you start looking at these boxes and thinking there's a fire on North St. Vrain Drive. That's not what this map is showing. What this map is showing is higher heat signatures. So that can be a number of things. What it can mean is it can be embers, it can be spot fires, it could be smoke, it could be higher higher ground surface temperatures that the satellites are actually picking up and then registering on this map. Now, every few hours, they do run infrared imaging flights over the fire. So while you're seeing this in the Lyons area now, what it will eventually look like, although we hope not to the same size and degree, is the Alexander Mountain fire up here on Highway 34. If you drop down the opacity, you're going to see these little hot spots, but what that eventually gives way to is an actual fire perimeter. When we get numbers from the Forest Service or the Sheriff's Office or whoever the incident command is for these fires, and they say, oh, it's X amount of acres, that's typically what this map is and what this map shows. So we are likely in the next few hours to get a map of a similar size for the Lyons area and this Stone Canyon fire. Right now, we know that it is about 30 acres. That was our last estimate. And the other thing that I also want to show you, I apologize for bumping over to a web page there for a minute, is this Rabbit Mountain area. As you can see here, just down on the right, I'm circling it with my mouse right in the center of your screen. There was a 25-acre spot fire there earlier in the summer. It has been fully contained. It is not a danger anymore, but it does speak to the fact that this is an area that can have these types of issues. And if you look on the full map, you'll be able to see the outline of the Alexander Mountain fire. That is the perimeter that we actually showed you on the NASA map. This is the Boulder ODM, the Office of Disaster Management, that has the fire perimeter map on their own website, and you can see the distance between both of these fires. Now, the concern obviously is not necessarily the Alexander Mountain fire continuing to push south over Highway 34. The topography doesn't necessarily favor that. The issue is actually going up northward, and as we saw Karen Morfitt up there in the Lyons area displaying just how much wind there is. And I know that a lot of people look at hot temperatures and think that's the type of thing that can create fires. Heat is an indirect creator of fires. It dries out an area. Relative humidity, which we are in the single-digit percents, as I'm sure you'll hear from Joe Rook a little bit later, as well as wind, those are the things that can create the dry brush. Then wind comes in, blows those embers, blows all that fire into those dry areas. That's what can make a fire turn into a full conflagration. Before we go, I want to show you as well a wildfire suppression map. This is something that we got really just in the last couple of weeks. This is from the Forest Service as well. And as you can see down in Lyons, not nearly as hard of a slog. So Lyons is right here in a circle, and then I'm going to do a second circle here. This is around the area of the fire. It's not exact. We're just kind of showing it to you just for sake of display. Now, you can see there's a lot of blue and not a lot of red. That means that the Forest Service does not deem this area to be a really tricky and difficult place to try and suppress a wildfire. You get a lot of blue in there. That means that it could actually get helped a little bit quicker. But the issue, as we mentioned, is the fact that those winds are what they are. So guys, I'll toss it back to you with a bit of historical context. Our longtime photojournalist Steve Youngerman sent an email to the newsroom that referenced Bill Owens in 2002 with his famous quote, "It looks like all of Colorado is burning today." It certainly feels that way, at least here in the Front Range.
Yeah, well, we are thankful for all of the first responders who are now battling these wildfires here along the Front Range, and we are grateful for all of them and grateful for all of your insight in breaking that down for us. Andrew, thank you.
We have your reporters in your neighborhoods covering this wildfire, these two wildfires for you. So stay with CBS News Colorado. We'll be right back after the break with more live reports. And Joe, you know, that's what's going through a lot of people's minds right now is just how do they save as many things as they can? Most importantly, their loved ones and their pets. Of course, they want to get out of there. These fires, we know, they spread quickly. They get out of control quickly, and you don't have much time, sadly.
Yep, you're not wrong. And the weather today, it's just a tick worse than yesterday, and that's why the rapid fire growth does remain. You're seeing the Stone Canyon fire in the distance. There we go. An aircraft probably making a drop there. What we are seeing is smoke dispersion, and that's something we weren't necessarily seeing yesterday. It's not always a good sign. You're seeing how all of the smoke is moving up to the north and the east. That would suggest our west-southwesterly winds are doing their job today. Rather than suffocating out the fire, they're allowing it to grow. Here's our next one towards Lyons, the southwesterly wind moving the smoke to the north and east. And you see the plume right there. So there is some air quality concerns that do follow this. I want to break down the winds. I was getting a detailed forecast because the Alexander fire, for example, some of it's at the top of the ridge, the others at the bottom. The winds can be 10, 15 miles per hour different, and that has huge impact. So let's break down the current conditions at this point. Our Lyons fire, 23 mile per hour wind gusts to this point. We will see potential up to about 30 miles per hour. But what happens when we go to the futurecast with the Lyons fire, with the setup of the terrain at this point, what we will see is a downsloping. See our winds coming from the west here. So winds will downslope as they decrease in elevation. So overnight tonight, winds with this fire will be anywhere from 20 to 25 miles per hour. We don't get relief tonight for the Stone Canyon fire regarding the winds. The same can't fully be said about our Alexander fire up here east of Estes Park, west of Loveland, not plotted here. What we'll see tonight is westerlies for the entirety of the fire, no elevation change, of about 20 miles per hour. So at this point, our current winds on the bottom of the fire are southeast at 15 miles per hour at the lower elevation. So that could imply a northwest movement of the fire for today. And what the other factor I want to point out is by tomorrow, it's a rinse and repeat wind-wise. Calm for the morning, and then gust potential 20 to 30 miles per hour looks to be on tap, at least up here towards the Alexander fire. So it's marginal fire conditions, but there is still some support weather-wise, and winds are just one component. Let's look at relative humidity. We've been talking about it. It's not something you see every day. The quick explanation: water vapor in each air molecule. Lyons, here's the new fire, as well as Loveland are 2 points that we're looking at here, the two relevant data plots. 7% in Lyons, 8% in Loveland. Think a glass of water. It is 7 or 8% full of water. The remainder of it is bone dry air. Now you have a bonfire, all these particles getting lofted into the atmosphere. As this happens with such dry air, they actually maintain their heat and can help the fire spread. So you need wind to aid that. What we were seeing yesterday was more so humidity values of 15 to 20%. Cut that in half for today. So the ingredients are just a bit better. 97 in Loveland, 97 in Lyons. This also works to flash fry some of the vegetation out there, really dry it up. Not that we've seen any rain, but any moisture left in them, this can work to do. So all the ingredients, we checked 3 boxes there. Red flag warnings in turn issued for both fires included. Even if you're not included in this, let this serve as a reminder. Yesterday, neither location was under a red flag warning. The Alexander fire sparked. So please use extra caution. Any potential fire starting activities, keep the barbecue inside for today, because by tomorrow we will now also include northern I-25 and the eastern plains. We're looking at fire weather. It's elevated, and I do even think there's a solid chance Denver would get pulled down into this. So we now expand our fire potential zone by tomorrow. That's why everyone needs to work together here and be very cautious. Here's the other impact that needs to be discussed, because watch the moderate to thick smoke that will impact a real majority of the Front Range. This actually becomes dangerous air quality. What we saw last week was about half of what this could be. So for that reason, we will hold on to first alert weather days for tomorrow. We'll continue to keep you updated fire-wise, because we're dry, guys, through the extended forecast. Already seeing drought conditions. That's why I'm pleading with everyone, please, any spark starting activities, try and use some extra caution, really, for the next 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, we know how critical it is to, because of the conditions out there, Joe, we just keep talking about it so much. So interesting, too, to hear you talk about the different range and the wind and how the wind can be different depending on the topography and the location. So I know our Karen Morfitt was talking about how gusty it was along Highway 36 there.
Yeah, and you can tell both with her hair, which is why she said she left it down, but also when you can see how much the smoke is moving from that fire.
Joe, thank you so much. And of course, we will be right back.
Welcome back to CBS News Colorado. We continue following breaking news of the Stone Canyon fire, which broke out this afternoon near Lyons. That is where we find your reporter, Karen Morfitt. She is reporting live near that fire. Boy, Karen, we have seen quite a bit of smoke billowing in that area. What are you noticing now?
Well, Kelly, over the last hour or so, we kind of thought we saw some of that smoke die down a little bit, but then the winds really started to pick up again. And as you can see, and as you noted, the smoke has really just increased once again. And we did start to see a number of flames again, kind of going down that eastern slope of Stone Mountain there, headed up Indian Mountain, which is on the other side there. And you can see Stone Mountain Canyon right in the middle. That's where we started to see more flames kind of pick up. But almost instantly, as that was picking up, we saw some of those air tankers come back in, drop that retardant back on those flames. And so they really are staying on top of what we're seeing kind of flare up in this area. Obviously, we can't see the north end of this fire. This is the south end of this fire. A number of folks have kind of gathered here on Highway 36. Some of them are from that neighborhood up there that have been evacuated. We've talked with a number of those folks who say, you know, they're trying to keep an eye on this fire the best they can from a safe distance, which this area seems to be a place where they're gathering. We are also talking with folks who came in from Boulder, because that is just south of where this fire is. A number of folks who maybe, you know, haven't been through something like this before. We just talked to a woman and her husband who say they're new to Boulder. They came up here. They wanted to see just how close this might be to Boulder, and if they need to be on edge and have their bags packed as well. They're in Boulder. We're still a number of miles away from Boulder, and the wind, as we can see it, still very strong, but moving east from what we can see, moving northeast. On the other side of this mountain, unfortunately, that is where you would drop down into Lyons, which is, you know, a town there that we're hearing from the folks that came down into this area from that neighborhood, was also going to be put on an evacuation notice this, if not already. And so we're certainly keeping an eye on it from this end. But those flare-ups that we keep seeing, Kelly, we instantly see some of these air tankers come in. They drop that retardant as soon as those flames start picking up again. They're really staying on top of this fire. Folks are just trying to monitor from where we are. I'm not sure if we were able to get any of the sound from the folks that we spoke to, but again, they say that Boulder Sheriff did go door to door asking folks in those neighborhoods, in those homes, to leave immediately. And so they were going door to door. They were able to get everyone out, as far as we know, from those neighborhoods that were under threat from that fire, because instantly we were hearing about structures that were being threatened by this fire. Now, we also were told by some of these folks who were evacuated that they didn't really have any time to kind of get their stuff together. You know, typically we see that pre-evacuation, that time period where they have to be under pre-evacuation. They're told to keep monitoring. Excuse me. In this situation, these folks say they were not given that pre-evacuation notice. They were kind of told it is evacuation time and it's time to get out. So they were not able to get a lot of things together. Folks that we spoke with say that they were able to grab some financial documents and then get out. They don't have the typical things that you see with, you know, an SUV packed full of their belongings. They just grabbed a couple of things because it was so fast in this area. You can see some air tankers, again, going over this fire. This is the south side of the Stone Mountain fire. I wanted to mention to you, I talked about this earlier, but the wind obviously picking up, it kind of picks up in spurts here. But one thing I noticed almost instantly when we got out of the vehicle here to start covering this fire for you, my eyes started watering because the smoke is so intense. And that's from, you know, a number of different fires. That's from likely the Alexander Mountain fire just north of here, but that smoke is in the air, and as it moves across here, we're certainly feeling some of that in the air. So certainly for people who are going to be or live in this area, or who are going to be in this area, staying indoors is probably a good idea at this point, as we're starting to feel that in my throat, on my eyes, and so certainly something to keep in mind for folks who are in this area at this time. Back to you.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. It is kind of concerning too, though, to see that dark smoke that typically indicates that something has burned, something is being lost. We do know at least one structure has already been lost into the Stone Canyon fire. Karen Morfitt, thank you for that report. I also just want to add too, I've been talking with a friend of mine who lives in that area, and she's trying to hurry her way from Aurora to get up there to that area near Lyons to not only evacuate her home and get her belongings, but also her horses. We know a lot of people who live in that area tend to have larger animals or livestock, and we do know that Boulder County is saying that the Boulder County Fairgrounds is the evacuation point, and all animals of any size can be brought there. So if you are among the evacuees, that is a point that you can reach.
Should she have her own trailers? Does she need help? Is she seeking help, or is she good?
Great question, Karen, and thankfully she does have her own trailer, and she's got a very handy husband who I know will help with that. But that's one thing that we've been just so gracious to see here in Colorado, is how the community responds and comes together. We saw that yesterday with the Alexander Mountain fire. Your reporter Tori Mason showing us the volunteers that were really coming together to ask, you know, hey, we have trailers, do you need help? Hey, we have horse experience, how can we assist you? I've shared the story of Horse Alert, which people can use to sign up.
Network out there where everybody can communicate with each other.
You can pitch in to either be a driver if you have that experience and you have the equipment, or you can use that app to say, I need the assistance. So just wanted to put that information out there. Of course, there's a lot of people who are concerned not only for their own well-being, but for that of their animals as well.
Yeah, of course, so much so. We want to toss out now to Gabriella Vidal. Our Gabby is out in the Loveland area, of course, and Gabby, looking over your shoulder there, we see the big plume of smoke that is just capturing everybody's attention right now as we continue covering this wildfire.
Yeah, that's right, Karen and Kelly. And obviously driving up here, I was seeing not only the Stone Mountain fire plume, but this one as well, the Alexander Mountain fire that's still been raging since yesterday. I was actually on the Estes Park side yesterday, so it's a lot different of a vantage point, seeing it a lot closer and a lot bigger than what I did yesterday. But let me step to the side so you can see it a little bit more closely. Obviously, it's still raging, more than 1,800 acres, and there's been a lot more evacuation orders since yesterday. One for the Masonville area, Glade Road from Highway 34 to Indian Creek, Drake to Dam Store along Highway 34, including Store Mountain and Palisade Mountain. It's just, the list keeps going on and on. Crater Lake, Flatiron Reservoir. It's just a lot of evacuations and warnings right now for people that are in this area. And as you're even in the Loveland area, you can see a lot of that smoke kind of like trailing off into it. You can see the sky getting a little bit darker and darker as the day goes on, just as we keep seeing this fire expand in this neighborhood, in this area at Alexander Mountain. Again, we've been covering the story since yesterday, and there have been a lot of evacuation orders since yesterday. And we actually did get to speak to some people earlier today from the Masonville area. I don't know if we have sound right now that we can show you about how they've been experiencing all this. Oh, well, we don't have the sound right now, but, unfortunately, a lot of them were saying that they had to go get their horses. They had only a little bit of time to quickly get their belongings and get out of there. And even some are still standing by waiting to see if they're going to be issued mandatory evacuation orders. And again, yesterday I was covering a lot of sort of these shelter locations that have been set up in response to this, one being at the Estes Park Events Complex, if you were able to make it to that side, as well as the Foundation Church that is here in Loveland, still areas that are accessible to people that are now being forced to evacuate. But again, we're going to continue to follow this and see if there's any more evacuation orders as this fire progresses here at the Alexander Mountain Fire. Back to you.
Gabby, I know as you're out there talking with so many people and really getting an idea of what they're going through, have they shared with you anything else that they need? Are they getting the information they need? Do they have the resources available to them? Kind of where are they right now with processing all of this?
Well, unfortunately, we just got here a few minutes ago, so we haven't get a chance to speak to too many people. I know that our reporter here in Laramie County, Dylan Thomas, actually spoke to the Sweetheart Winery earlier, who's actually been helping to deliver food and water to some of the first responders here and helping as many people as they can. So there is a lot of support that's being poured out from people who are here in the community who may not be directly affected just yet, but are, putting in all the resources they can to help those who may be in the path of this fire.
All right, Gabby, thank you so much for your live reporting for us. One of your reporters in the communities today, of course, keeping everybody updated on the 2 wildfires that have now broken out in Colorado.
One thing that both your reporter, Gabby Vidal, and of course your reporter, Karen Morfitt, both were saying is it felt like the evacuees got just a moment's notice. Sometimes there can be that pre-evac, or what we have seen in some cases, even with the Alexander Mountain Fire, where you're in that voluntary state. It's so scary because as a fire evacuee myself from years ago during the Waldo Canyon fire, when you're trying to think of all the things you need to grab or should grab, and you're watching the community around you react to, you're in that panic mode. And so it's hard when you're in that, like, I got to grab what I need. What is it that I need? And then you're someplace and you think of what you forgot, and did I grab enough? And what's happening. So thankfully, though, it does seem that both of these fires have a community where people are providing those resources. And we've all been through this, unfortunately, a few too many times, that we know how to support one another.
Yeah, we sure do. And Coloradans certainly know how to step up and help each other out. Do not go anywhere. CBS News Colorado has your reporters in your communities. We're going to walk you through these wildfires that are breaking out in our state. Of course, we've got the Stone Canyon, which just broke out earlier today, and the Alexander Mountain Fire, which we know is about just under about 2,000 acres right now. We are expecting a live update here pretty soon to kind of bring us up to date on the situation, how things stand. We'll have all that much more for you when we come back. We are following this breaking news here at CBS News Colorado. Of course, as we have 2 wildfires that we're keeping close tabs on right here in that metro area that we're just really watching as we have so many evacuations. We have the Alexander Mountain Fire, and of course we have our Stone Canyon Fire. Your reporters are out there covering for you. Our Karen Morford, of course, right there for us.
Yes, Karen, you know, we've been talking to you over the last hour or so, watching as that Stone Canyon fire is unfortunately growing, at least what we can tell by the smoke. You've also been speaking with some folks who live in that area.
Yeah, Kelly, and one thing that we hear from the number of people that we've spoke to is just how quickly they were told to get out of this fire. But we're also hearing that they started smelling smoke, early this afternoon, and we're kind of like questioning whether or not that was from the fire further north. We spoke with a couple who's sitting here. They're waiting. They're kind of watching to see if their home makes it through this fire, because they are on the Indian Mountain side of this. Stone Mountain is to the west. Indian Mountain there is to the east, closer to Highway 36. They're watching as these flames and as these aircraft keep dropping retardant, trying to keep it from moving up that eastern ridge. But you can hear from them. We spoke with them earlier. We're going to go ahead and let you hear what they had to say about what they initially saw as this fire was getting going.
Just the typical grass fire smoke, dark, brownish, smelly. And then I saw bombers coming in with water, and they dropped water on it, turned to white smoke, which means they got it. And it was pretty much under control, and the wind shifted towards the southeast.
Yeah, Callie, that was one of the folks that we spoke to as he was initially seeing that fire. But you heard him talking about the wind and things moving southeast. You can see it here where we're at. The wind is picking up once again. That's when we start to see up on this ridge some of those flames really start to pick up here. And you start to see that black smoke again kind of take hold and make that big plume of smoke that nobody wants to see in these type of situations. But again, right now, a lot of folks just kind of waiting and seeing, being told to evacuate their homes. Many of them not ready to leave this area yet. They're keeping a close eye on this fire, and so are we. And we'll be sure and keep you updated with any changes as soon as we get them. Back to you.
Karen, I want to ask you a question. I know there's a little bit of a delay as we talk to each other right now, but another thing we've been talking a lot about, especially with First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook, is the wind and how it seems to be differing between the two fires, and that's certainly something that you noticed when you first got there near Lyons. Have the winds picked up? Have they remained the same? What are the conditions like?
Yeah, Kelly, when we got here, one thing that we noticed actually on our drive down Highway 36 was that wind gusts were really powerful as we were driving. I looked over to my photojournalist, Mario Galarraza here, and he tells me, yeah, that was the wind because the vehicle was moving so much when we were driving down here. We stepped out, we could feel it, my hair, flying around. So we knew that the winds were powerful. We knew that that was going to be a factor in this fire. But what we've seen is they kind of come and go periodically. It's very calm. Then they pick up and they're very gusty. Another thing that we heard from the folks that live in this area, though, is this is just a windy part of this area of Boulder County. And so they're kind of used to these gusts of winds, these powerful winds coming and going, but also something that they're keeping a very close eye when their homes are, at the center of this fire. Kelly.
All right, Karen Morford reporting live for us near Lyons. Thank you so much. We'll check in with you in a little bit and continue to stay safe, you and Mario.
Yeah, First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook was talking about that, right? How different areas and the topography changes the wind gusts, but we still are under that threshold of the 25-mile-per-hour winds, which is super important. That is for the red flag warning. That's on the northwestern part of the state. It's getting close, but Joe has not said that we're hitting those high wind gusts throughout town. So we're really holding tight to that hope there.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't spread the fires much more than it already has, because as we saw, the Alexander Mountain fire just more than doubled in size overnight. And so we know whether it be the winds, but certainly those dry conditions where the earth and everything is just so dry, and then the intense heat that we're all experiencing really across the state. And now your first responders are dealing with both elements of the fire and the intense heat, and then a little bit of wind.
Hands tight. We have your reporter Olivia Young out also covering this fire for us. Olivia, if you want to share with us what you saw driving in and if you've had a chance to talk with anybody.
Yeah, Karen, we certainly haven't. I mean, just to start off, take a look at that plume of smoke behind me. We certainly saw that driving in from a ways off. Now, right now, we're here on Glade Road near Highway 34 in the Masonville area. This is the latest neighborhood mandated to evacuate due to the Alexander Mountain fire. In fact, Larimer County Sheriff's Office tells me 4,200 evacuation notices have been sent out to devices since yesterday. And earlier today, this road that we're on right here was packed with cars, people trying to get out of this neighborhood. Actually, a lot of people also going back into the neighborhood just after receiving those notices, telling us they needed to get their pets and essential items. Now, as you can see, things have quieted down. We're still seeing the occasional resident come out, but down the road there, they have closed this neighborhood entrance. Only residents are allowed to go in. Now, of course, as we've talked about, a lot of people in this area do have animals, so that provides another consideration for them when they're trying to evacuate safely. Where can they go? How can they get those animals out? Certainly scary if they don't have enough notice to do that, but it does seem like people here, we're watching that plume, we're getting ready. We spoke with some people coming up with an empty trailer earlier today to try to help evacuate some goats and alpacas they said that their friends have up in this neighborhood, and they tell us they were doing the same thing for other neighborhoods that were evacuating yesterday. And it's kind of cool to see. It's a grassroots effort in a lot of cases for animal owners, people with trailers chipping in, trying to find people on social media that they can help and connecting with them to come get their animals. Now, we also spoke with some people who live in Berthoud, a little further away from the fire, and have animals. And even though they haven't been ordered to evacuate yet, they're certainly watching this plume, getting ready. One woman tells me she hooked up her trailer to her truck, she gassed it up, and she's packing about a week's worth of food and water for her animals, just preparing in case she does get that evacuation order. Now, the Larimer County Sheriff's Office also says that you can bring your animals to the ranch. That's at 5290 Arena Circle. And people can also go to Foundations Church or the Estes Park Events Center. And we'll be here keeping an eye on this. We'll have more reaction from the people having to evacuate coming up at 5. Back to you.
Olivia Young reporting live from Loveland. Thank you so much for that update. We also know at this hour that Larimer County has declared a disaster for that area because of the Alexander Mountain fire, which has scorched nearly 2,000 acres already. We know there are still mandatory evacuations in place for that area just west of Loveland. And with the Stone Canyon fire, which started earlier this afternoon in the area near Lyons, there are also mandatory evacuations for that area as well. We have all the information, including maps, on our website, cbscolorado.com. But we have your reporters in your communities that will continue to bring us those updates and give you that information that is critical at a time like this. And we will also check in with First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook with a look at the fire conditions that our first responders are up against when we come back. Welcome back to CBS News Colorado as we continue to follow breaking news of not one but two fires that are burning right now in Colorado along the Front Range that are forcing mandatory evacuations. The likelihood is that you can see all of this smoke from where you are if you are really anywhere in the metro area. We have your reporter Andrew Hobner on the desk for us this evening, monitoring closely the evacuation zones that includes a lot of mandatory evacuations, Andrew. And I understand now that those evacuation zones have actually connected between these two fires.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable, Kelly. Let's just take the screen in full, because as this fire has jumped and grown in size in Lyons, it's actually crossed the county line from Boulder County into Larimer County. What that means is while the fire itself on the bottom end here by Lyons is still under the command and control of Boulder County, Larimer County has the ability to essentially create their own evacuation zones. And that's what they've done. They've gone and basically created this entire area of Blue Mountain Road, the Spring Valley area from Frizzle Farm to Fire Station 2. This goes all the way up through Blue Mountain, through Pinewood Reservoir. This is all mandatory evacuation zone now. And what that's done is it's created one entire evac zone that stretches just north of Lyons. One thing that Larimer County doesn't have on their NOCO alert page, this area all right here that my mouse is hovering over, that is all evac zone, but because the county line is this one horizontal line, it is not including the Boulder County evacuation areas, which include Dow Flats down to Highway 36 just north of Lyons. So essentially what you have is an evacuation zone, a mandatory evacuation zone, mind you, that stretches from the top end of Highway 36 in Lyons here all the way to the south end of Masonville here, which is Buckhorn Road, and stretches in through Drake and out toward Estes Park, with Highway 34 being the main artery. Now, the concern obviously is this fire stretching north, the Stone Canyon fire stretching north up toward Carter Lake. Now, Carter Lake's area, the marina here, this is still under a voluntary evacuation zone. Around this time yesterday, what we had was this spot here right around Green Ridge Glade near the dam store, just up by Riverview RV Park. This was voluntary evacuation yesterday. Glade Road, West County Road 24, everything up toward the top end by Masonville, that was all voluntary. That has now been turned into a mandatory evac zone, with Devil's Backbone open space now a voluntary zone, as well as this area of Pole Hill and the north end of Carter Lake, including the marina and Big Thompson Campground, as a voluntary zone. Now, what we do not have is voluntary evacuation zones in the Lyons area in particular. That is something that we are still waiting on. I'm going to open up the public info map. This is from the Boulder Office of Disaster Management. This actually shows you crossing the line. Again, because they do not have jurisdiction over this area of the Alexander Mountain Fire, they do not put up mandatory evac zones for here. But this is what Boulder County's evac zone is. And if you've been following along with us for the past hour to hour and a half, this zone used to just be this area where the roads are closed down by Stone Canyon and Eagle Ridge Road. The mandatory evacs have ballooned all the way out towards Elk Ridge, Moose Mountain, Nixon Park, even touching some areas of the east side of Hell Canyon, and just kind of stretching right into the vicinity of Pinewood Springs and Highway 36, not directly on it, but as you kind of go a little further in, you know, this is County Road 37 East right here. This is Open Range Road. And as we mentioned, some spots on Steamboat Valley and Blue Mountain Road as well. So that is what we have in terms of mandatory evacuations. There has been a second area that is basically for wildlife evacuations. What we have, as I try to find it for you, pardon me here, the last thing I want to show you, Boulder County Fairgrounds, Jeffco Fairgrounds, those are the two places you can bring animals out of the Lyons area if you're in the evac zone. Guys, I'll toss it back to you real quick.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much for all of your help and support with breaking down these evac zones and the road closures.
Yeah, it really helps to visualize and get to see where everything happens. Andrew, thank you so much. We want to toss over to First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook. And Joe, I know you've been keeping tabs on the conditions surrounding these two wildfires here along the Front Range. So if you can, kind of bring us up to date on the wind gusts and where things are.
Yeah, right now, the one fire that we're going to start off with, we're looking at the Stone Canyon fire. Looks like a water drop there. But look at how low the smoke is as you're getting away from the fire. That would indicate stronger wind gusts, and that's exactly what we are seeing right now. So let me get my spot forecast here. Let's drive you through all the latest data. For now, this is wind speeds, not gusts. They're cooperating, but that hasn't been the case all day, and that won't be the case as we get throughout the next few hours. So here's the Alexander Mountain fire. Here's the Stone Canyon fire. We've got them both plotted. Let's go through and just show you a few things that we watch. I'm going to start off in Loveland. These are the wind gusts that we are forecasting. And the important thing with this fire, this is the Alexander fire, is that it's occurring up on top of the mountain, and some of the fire is at the lower elevation. So atop the ridge, we're seeing our gust potential more like this forecast, from the west up to about 25 miles per hour through 10 o'clock tonight. So this is up atop the ridge. The lower elevation, it's calmer wind, 15 miles per hour, and it's actually coming from the south and east, which isn't pictured here, but that would support northwestern movement of the fire. So really combating wind directions is what we're seeing right now at the Alexander fire. Tonight, westerlies, everyone will deal with winds up to about 20 miles per hour. The other thing with the Stone Canyon fire, gust potential, we see Karen out there upwards of about 30 miles per hour. And tonight, the concern with this is straight westerly winds. They actually downslope from the ridge towards lower elevation. The downslope wind accelerating, meaning gust potential 20 to 25 miles per hour with that. Alrighty, that's the winds. The other aspect that we look at, we've been talking about all day, relative humidity, because this is a big change that we're seeing today compared to yesterday. Loveland, Berthoud, Hygiene, you're at about 7-8%, single digits, and that's what we're seeing for both these fires. What's that mean? Embers, they get lofted into the atmosphere, and as they do that, we're looking at a measurement of water vapor. So low numbers in the single digits, 12% is normally our threshold, would mean as the embers pop, the winds loft them and make them travel, they can actually maintain their heat. So it's not a good sign to see 7 and 8%. You want to see something more along the lines of 25, 40, 50%. This plus the winds would support fire growth and potential with more sporadic pops, promoting growth in more sporadic directions. So let's check our box here of the ingredients for fire danger. Temperatures, 90s, 100s, we're certainly seeing that. Low relative humidity, that's what I just unpacked, our water vapor measurement within each column of air. And the gusty winds, they are marginal, but they are a tick increase from what we saw today. So in turn, red flag warnings, they have been issued with our gust potential and our very dry air. Here's the concern. By tomorrow, we expand our fire zone. The plains included, northern I-25 will be included. I won't be surprised if the metro is included, so please use some common sense. Any potential fire starting activities, bring inside. One aspect I do want to quickly touch on, because this will have a pretty large impact. Overnight and into tomorrow, moderate to just downright thick smoke across really much of the foothills and portion of the metro and I-25 will be anticipated. So tomorrow will be a dangerous day, guys, as far as the smoke is concerned. We'll continue to watch the weather's impact of this fire.
Joe Rook, thank you so much for that insight. We know fire danger remains high, even if there aren't red flag warnings, because as we're seeing right now, it doesn't take much.
No, it sure doesn't. Thank you, of course, so much for staying with us here at CBS News Colorado. We are not going anywhere for you. Our coverage continues for you all evening. First at 4 is coming up here in just a couple of minutes.
Breaking news first at 4. Another community threatened by flames. This one started near Lyons just a couple hours ago. Copter footage showing us one home has already burned. We did see planes dropping retardant, trying to get those intense flames under control.
And this fire in Larimer County not contained. We're expecting an update on this one any moment now. We know the Alexander Mountain Fire has nearly doubled in size since this time yesterday. We're, of course, staying on top of this breaking news for you today.
With a lot of important information to get to. This afternoon, we were alerted to what is being called the Stone Canyon Fire. It is burning north of Lyons, and there are mandatory evacuation orders in place for an area just south of that fire. We will get more information on those evacuation orders in just a few minutes.
We of course, don't want to waste any time. We want to send it out live to your reporter, Karen Morford, who is tracking the latest on this fire. And right now we have a press conference. We want to listen in and hear the very latest.
Again, we thank you for joining us today. We will hold 5 minutes at the end of this conference for questions, so we ask that you hold your questions until the time. And now I'll pass it off to Mike Smith.
Stand a little bit closer to the mic. There we go, right there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Smith, and I'm the incident commander for the Alexander Mountain Fire. I'd like to start out by saying thanks to all of our partners, federal, state, local, that have really come together in a time of need. And we've seen a great collaborative and cooperative response throughout the incident. Currently, the fire is just tipped over the 3,500 acre mark. That was just flown by the multi-mission aircraft from the Division of Fire Prevention and Control for the state of Colorado. A great asset for us, and they've been very helpful throughout this. We don't have a map here currently because the fire is changing so rapidly. This fire was 900 acres last night, and first flight this morning it was 1,800 acres. Seeing that sort of fire growth overnight speaks to the dryness of the fuels and the dryness of the atmosphere. Those things combined with wind really lead us into the situation that we see here. So currently we have about 270 firefighters on the ground and numerous helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft working the air show from above. We're utilizing retardant and water. Any moment now we're expecting to see what's called a scooper. It's something we don't see around here very often, but it's a fixed-wing aircraft that will actually fly, and it lands, skitters along the top of the water and grabs water and comes back up. The real benefit to these aircraft is that they can turn around when you've got lakes very close and put a lot of water on the fire very quickly. So they'll be dipping out of one of the local reservoirs here locally, and we're really looking forward to that asset being here. So the fire behavior is pretty much what you're seeing here. It's pretty active in what we call backing, so it's moving downhill against the wind, and as it does that, you know, it's a slow-moving process, but then as it backs to the bottom, it does what we call slope reverse. It comes back up the hill in a pretty aggressive fashion. So we're seeing that repeat itself on the back side of the fire. On the front side of the fire, where it's got wind pushing with the topography, so wind and the hills aligning and pushing uphill, that's where we're seeing some of the more aggressive growth. Currently, we are seeing fire growth due to the terrain around this fire in 3 cardinal directions. It's moving off to the west, it's moving off to the north, and it's moving off to the east. We're having pretty good success on the east side. We've just had a wind shift, which we're all paying very close attention to. We've had wind basically out of the west, out of the north, but a little bit, but now it's swung into much stronger northerly wind, and you can see that smoke bending over if you were to look over there. So again, we are looking into the evening. We'll be having a night shift this evening, overnight, trying to do what we can, but we are facing a pretty significant shortage of resources nationally. Fortunately, we've had great support because of the potential impacts that this fire poses to the community around here. So we are getting good support. The fact that we're going to have a complex incident management team coming in tomorrow, they bring a lot more resources to bear, and they're going to be able to do a lot more than we've been able to do with our Type 3 incident command structure. So tomorrow it's basically going to be a lot more of the same. We're hoping that we're going to get some hotshot crews in. We've also got some Type 2 crews. Those hotshot crews are really the tip of the spear. They're the folks that when we've got challenging terrain, technical assignments, they're the ones that we put out there to do that. So we're really looking forward to those assets getting here, but they are in real short supply, and the fact that we've got 2 coming is helpful, but boy, we'd take all we could get. With that, I think we'll continue to utilize the aircraft that we have. You know, obviously we had that start down south, that's in Boulder County, so I don't have much information on that. I wish I did, but I would talk to the Boulder County Sheriff about that one. And I can't share anything about what I just don't have any information. So as we look to tomorrow, again, we're going to continue to take opportunities where we can, but our main focus is firefighter and public safety. So if we can't get in and engage this fire safely and make sure that our folks can get in and get out and do the job that they need to, we're not going to commit those resources. So we're doing what we can, where we can, when we can. So with that, that's pretty much my update. Again, we're at 0% containment currently. I hope that we're going to see that start to improve, but it's going to, really depend on Mother Nature giving us a break. Looking forward with our forecast, looks like we're hot, dry, and windy until Friday, and when the chances of moisture are going to increase, but it's not significant. So I thank you all for coming out. I look forward to the question and answer, and I'll hand it off to the sheriff.
Okay, thank you, Mike. My name is John Fan. I'm the Larimer County Sheriff. My last name is F as in Frank, E-Y-E-N. So first off, for those of you who are local, let me orient where you're looking at. Right now behind me where your fire activity is, you're looking at Sylvandale Ranch. So if you're used to Larimer County or live in this area, you've passed by this many times. Where the fire activity is currently is actually the north side of Highway 34 and the mouth of the Big Thompson Canyon. So that kind of gives you an idea where we are. At this time, we've instituted several mandatory evacuation phases as well as voluntary evacuation phases. During those times, we've contacted 3,245 folks in the mandatory evacuation area. Voluntary evacuation area is number 826. During these evacuations, we are coordinating with the Department of Human Services as well as our EMS providers in the area, Thompson Valley EMS, to take care of those folks who have special needs or challenges in evacuation. So we've had a couple of instances where folks are taking care of their elderly parents and can't move them themselves, and we're making sure that gets managed. Unfortunately, we have some areas where there is some impingement on residential structures. We don't know if they're involved yet or not. We just know that the fire is backing into some of those areas. And unfortunately, the reason that happens is, like Mike was talking about, our number one priority after the evacuations is keeping our firefighters safe as well. And so we haven't had a chance to put teams into those areas just because of the fire activity. And we will do that as soon as it is safe for them, and we will give everybody an update. We will do that as quickly as we can, as soon as it's safe to do that, okay? Let's see, so when you get notified, if you want to get updates about this, I would encourage you to go to nocoalerts.org and sign up for alerts. That way you can be advised of what the evacuations are in real time, and we would ask that you follow evacuation routes. Let me talk real quick about animals. We're a very rural county in this area. Lots of folks have large animals, and so that's always a concern, right? Because your animals and your pets are a part of your family as well, just like they are in my household. So we have taken steps to make sure that you have a place to go with them as well. We initially had them out at the ranch, but as you know, the Larimer County Fair is starting up, and the 4-H projects and all those things are just as important to the citizens of Larimer County as taking care of this fire is. So we were working with Island Grove over in Weld County. We've contacted all the owners whose animals we have taken to the ranch initially, and we have moved them over to Island Grove. I heard that a state CSU veterinarian services and the state veterinarian services are also working with us to make sure that all the animals stay safe at this time. So this is especially important. If you get a notification of a voluntary evacuation and you have a large animal, we don't want you doing that at night. We don't want to help you do that at night. We want to do it when it's safe. So help us help you and move those animals out when it's early, and help us make arrangements for that so that we can keep you and your family safe. Let's see. Okay, so lots and lots of folks are offering to help. I get those telephone calls all the time. I'm seeing it on my Facebook page. I'm going to tell you, we have a lot of resources. We greatly appreciate the outpouring of support and faith that the community is showing us. I'm actually going to refer you to the Red Cross. So contact your local Red Cross and see what you can do, whether it's providing your skill sets, your passions, whether it's food, whatever that is, but contact them and they will help coordinate getting that out to the first responders in all the different areas that we're at. Don't drop things by because we're inundated with that stuff. And again, we're very blessed because you're a giving community. So thank you for that, but actually I would go to your Red Cross for that. Finally, let's see. I have to echo all of the thanks, right? We have about 250, 275 firefighters. We have federal partners, state partners, local partners, and we could not do this. When the initial call for help went out yesterday at 10:39 in the morning, within a couple of hours, we had over 250 folks here willing to help us keep the citizens of Larimer County safe. Forest Service was here. They were a great partner with their air assets, and they continue to be a great partner. And I cannot be thankful enough that when time and crises hit like this, that we have all those partners that we can rely on. So we are very, very blessed in that fashion. If you need additional information, I would encourage you to go to larimer.gov and look at the information that's there on the website and contact our JIC, which is 970-980-2500. JIC is Joint Information Center. They can answer a lot of your questions if you need them or get you the right resources. They're open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. And I look forward to answering what I may have missed in your question and answer period. So I'm going to turn it over to the interim Roosevelt Arapahoe Forest Director, Jason Sieg. How'd I do that? Good, okay?
Good afternoon, Jason Sieg, S-I-E-G. I'm currently the acting forest supervisor on the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forests and Pawnee National Grassland. Just want to reiterate, this incident is a prime example of how close coordination and communication with our state, county, and local partners has put us in really the best position possible to deal with the difficult conditions that we're currently seeing on the ground. And as you can see behind us, the conditions are very difficult right now as we enter into this evening. Also want to give a big thanks to all the law enforcement personnel who have been assisting with evacuations these last 2 days. The evacuation process for this incident is one of the most efficient and timely processes I've seen on an emerging fire incident. So big thanks to those personnel. At this time, we will start a brief 5-minute question and answer session. And so this is your opportunity to ask some basic questions. We may not be able to answer all of them at this time because this is still very much a dynamic situation. Thank you.
All right, just a quick rebrief on what they've been sharing here with us. 3,500 acres, of course, is where this fire starts right now. This fire, we know, grew overnight from, I think they were talking about 900 acres. I want to go through some of the numbers for you real quick. This is the Alexander Mountain Fire that we just got that briefing on. It grew from 900 to 1,800 to 3,500 acres right now. Zero containment on that. This information came from Mike Smith, who is the incident commander. He was talking about the fire today, traveling today to the west, the north, and the east. They were talking about having great success, of course, on the east side, 270 firefighters on the ground. What they're really excited about, Kelly, was the scooper coming in, and they said this was great. They've gotten all kinds of aerial support out there. We've been showing that to you throughout our live coverage on this fire, but the scooper is new, not here yet, but it's coming in, and it will just scoop along top of the fire and the water that we have, and it'll just continue to make rounds and dump a lot quicker, faster, exactly what we need right now in this fire.
Well, and it comes thanks to, in part, because Larimer County also able to make their disaster declaration, so this will allow for additional resources from a state and federal standpoint to come in, even though those resources are being stretched pretty thin, not only here in Colorado, but really across the Rocky Mountain West with all the different fires we're seeing in our neighboring states. But they were trying to share a little bit of good news there, despite the fact that this fire has grown so immensely, again, at just over 3,500 acres with 0% containment. The winds have been challenging, the terrain has been challenging, but they say that they're just so grateful for the way that the community has also really rallied around each other to help with these evacuations.
Right. Top priority, they said, is making sure people are safe and firefighters are safe. And they do want to say, too, that they noticed that there was some fire backing into some homes. They have not been able to get in yet to see if there has been any structures lost in this fire. They will update us as soon as they're able to get into those homes and into that terrain safely.
Yeah, we'll have much more of this breaking news coverage when we come back.
Thank you so much for being with us here as we stay on top of this breaking news for you.
We have a lot of important information to share with you. We just got an update on the Alexander Mountain Fire, but this afternoon we were also alerted to what is being called the Stone Canyon Fire. That fire is burning north of Lyons, and there are mandatory evacuation orders in place for this fire that is just to the south. We'll have more information on those evacs coming up in just a few minutes.
We want to get live to your reporter, Karen Morfitt, of course, who was out there tracking the latest on this fire in Boulder County for us. And Karen, this fire you cannot miss over your shoulder there that we were watching a little while earlier ago. You've had a chance to talk with some of the locals that are out there.
Yeah, Karen, we did talk to a number of people who were just in that area when this fire erupted. They started smelling smoke early this afternoon. They weren't sure if that was coming from the fire further north or if that had sparked something closer to their homes. We can see now behind us plumes of smoke coming up from behind this ridge here. We actually moved locations. We are now in downtown Lyons, and so you can see just how close that ridge really is to the town here of Lyons, and we are seeing heavy aircraft activity just hitting this fire over and over. There goes another drop right there because you can actually see the homes on that ridge. It looks like they're just trying to, keep it from coming up over this direction. The good news, if there is any right now, is the wind seems to be moving away from Lyons. And so we are getting more information, and we expect more information on this fire. Right now, what we know is it's nearly 100 acres. Evacuations have expanded for this fire as well. I know we just got an update from the Alexander Mountain Fire, but we are hearing that evacuation areas for this fire have also expanded further north. We're also expecting an update from some of the officials here in Boulder County within minutes, and we'll certainly get more information about that. But again, take a look behind us. We are seeing so much aircraft in this area trying to stay on top of this fire. That is reassuring for the folks that we've spoke with. I again had mentioned this earlier, and we've heard from the families that we've spoke with, but they said that this was reassuring to see how quickly that the aircraft came in and started doing these drops almost immediately as they were being told to evacuate. Go ahead and take a listen to one of the men that we spoke with earlier.
There's a lot of police and sheriff's cars up there. They notified everybody there's a car at every house, and most of the houses up there are on 40-acre parcels. So each one had a car, and they got an area where the fire trucks are, trying to work this side if they have to. I think they're leaving it up to the bombers to get the water out on the ridge. So that's what's happening.
Did you guys have any time to pack anything, or was it like it's time?
Very little. Checkbooks, and that's it.
Do you, sitting here, you came here, you just...
I came here because I knew this spot, I could see my place, but I can't see it now because of smoke.
How do you, respond when you start seeing that smoke in your neighborhood?
Well, you keep your fingers crossed. It's been awfully dry and windy the last week or so.
We know that right now
Karen, we're going to cut you off there. We're having a little difficulty hearing you right now. So we so appreciate your report there from downtown Lyons. And she was talking about the aerial support. We saw 2 drops right there of slurry within a minute and a half. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's remarkable to see, and we're grateful for it. Well, your reporters have been working hard over the last 24 hours, bringing you the very latest information in the wake of these fires. You can find their coverage as well as the latest details that you need to know to stay safe right now on our website, cbscolorado.com.
Not much relief in the weather world is on tap. I'll tell you what, by tomorrow, very similar copy and paste, hot and dry, elevated fire concerns. Here's the big change. Wildfire smoke, the metro, we could be under moderate to thick smoke. A whole lot to unpack another First Alert Weather Day. All the details are coming up in just a bit.
Right now, we want to check in with First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook, who's not only watching your forecast, but also the fire danger and the impact of the conditions are having on these two fires burning right now, Joe.
Yeah, I want to start off with the current conditions at the fire, and then I got to unpack tomorrow's weather because a lot of us will be impacted by these fires, even for the metro. Current look, relative humidity. We've talked about it all day today. We mentioned it yesterday. What is it? A measurement of water vapor within each parcel of air. What's that translate to? Can a ember pop off the fire, get lofted, and maintain its heat? When you've 8% across really what we're seeing, Loveland, Berthoud, Hygiene, what you're seeing is very dry air. Think of a glass of water, 8% full. The remainder of the glass is dry air. So when these embers pop, they are able to be lofted. So another aspect you'll look at is temperatures, because if it's cool temperature-wise, then you won't be able to maintain the heat. Temperatures are still at 98 in Loveland, 96 over towards the Stone Canyon fire. So we checked that box. Very dry air. Temperatures are mild. Now you need a form to really transport some of the embers, and we see that with our wind potential. Right now, relatively calm, 10 to 15 miles per hour. I took a spot forecast, shared this just a bit ago, starting with the Alexander Mountain fire. Wind gust in general from the west at 25 miles per hour, but that's at the ridge top. This fire is an elevation difference. You jump down on the east side towards about 6,500 feet. We're seeing wind gusts from the southeast, not the west, of about 15 miles per hour. Now that all changes tonight because that southeasterly wind would give northwesterly fire movement. By tonight, all of us in this fire will see westerly winds. That does provide a bit of relief versus combating wind directions. Stone Canyon fire, this one by tonight, we go down the ridge, and as that occurs, accelerating air, meaning wind gusts to 20 or 25 miles per hour. So that's what we watch, and that's all prompted red flag warnings through at least 8 o'clock tonight as we're watching the dry air as well as our gustier winds. By tomorrow, elevated fire concern, we expand the zone. Now the plains and northern I-25 will be included. With all that said, we hold on to the first alert weather day, record heat, but that's not even what we watch anymore. Critical fire conditions and very thick smoke will be on tap. This is not even tapping into the Lyons fire smoke. All we're watching here is the Alexander fire and Canadian wildfire smoke. Watch by midnight tonight, we start to get moderate to thick smoke. Again, a graphic we don't show all that often, so let's walk you through it. By the morning hours tomorrow, 9 a.m., where you're looking at moderate to thick smoke across much of the Front Range. Dangerous levels, doesn't matter really where you're located, and this is what we will see. You also factor in very hot temperatures, rinse and repeat. 98 for Grand Junction, 70s and 80s out across the high country. 97 for the metro area, 96 up towards Loveland, 94 for Lyons. So it's a very similar fire combating weather day for tomorrow. So we have kept the first alert weather day. This is a new one for the smoke. Very moderate to thick wildfire smoke across the metro and really all of the Front Range will really create health hazards. You'll almost be able to taste the smoke at times. Thursday and Friday, there will be a return of rain chances. What I can tell you about that, a lot of dry air by the surface. That means our moisture, our rain associated with these thunderstorms evaporates on the way down. We still get a bolt of lightning, though, a dry thunderstorm. All that energy in one area could create a fire of its own. Don't go anywhere. All the updates regarding the fire concerns are headed your way in just a bit.
Well, we continue to track the latest developments in the state's newest fire that is burning right now in Boulder County.
The Stone Canyon fire forcing evacuations near the town of Lyons. Your reporter Andrew Hobner joins us now live from the newsroom desk with the very latest evacuation information and road closures. Andrew, walk us through what folks in that area need to know right now.
Yeah, there are significant updates to road closures, significant updates to evacuation zones, a couple of evacuation zones that have been upgraded from voluntary to mandatory. And the one remarkable thing is that the evacuation zones have now merged. It is one large mandatory zone that stretches from the south end of Masonville all the way down to the north end of Lyons. So let's jump into the Boulder County map. We have to show these to you in two different ways, mainly because you have Boulder County, which is the agency that is leading the Stone Canyon fire, and then Larimer County, which is the lead agency along with the complex team that is handling the Alexander Mountain fire. So what you're looking at right now is the Boulder Emergency Operations Center. So these are all road closures. Essentially, everything north of Highway 36 is closed. We're going to get more information right now. We're being told that the presser for the Stone Canyon fire is beginning. Let's go to that right now if we can.
And then answer a few questions. I'll follow up with more information on where to find alerts about evacuations, as well as information on the fire. So I'm going to hand it over to the sheriff.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Curtis Johnson, Boulder County Sheriff. Just want to give you a few details of what we know is going on today with the Stone Canyon fire. This fire started at approximately 1:30 this afternoon. Our dispatch center was alerted to smoke in the area. Units responded and found an active wildfire in the area of Stone Canyon, just to our north. Immediately, we began evacuating that area and areas to the north and east. The fire has continued to grow and is continuing to move in a northeasterly direction. We're about 8 miles away from the Alexander Mountain fire. The good news for us is that we were able to grab resources from Larimer County. As soon as our fire kicked off, the Larimer Sheriff was in contact with me, offered to send some of those air resources to this fire to try to help us get it under control. So within an hour, we had a lot more support than we might on a normal initial fire because of the fire burning north of us. Those air resources are continuing to work, both the Stone Canyon fire and the Alexander Mountain fire as needed. They will continue as long as weather conditions permit. Currently on the Stone Canyon fire, we have about 70 firefighters on the ground doing work. We have deputies from the sheriff's office, as well as law enforcement officers from surrounding agencies, and our friends from Larimer County came down to help us. We were in Larimer County yesterday helping them evacuate neighborhoods, and as that fire stabilized a little bit, they were able to send help to us. We work really closely together and communicate well, so we were able to get some Larimer County folks down here to help us evacuate the neighborhoods that are being directly impacted by the fire. The last estimate on acreage I heard was about 85 acres. But that was over a half hour ago, and I would estimate the fire has grown to be at least 100 acres by now. We should be able to have multi-mission aircraft fly over later to get us an accurate size up. But as you know, with these fires, the numbers can flux and change. So we'll wait for really good data later today or tonight to give us a real good picture on the size of the fire. We are continuing to evacuate people to the north and east. This fire is pushing towards the Larimer County line, which is not far from Boulder County in this area. And so we'll continue to work on it and make progress and hopefully get it put in some semblance of control. But right now our focus is life safety, making sure people are evacuated, making sure animals are removed from the area, and then it's structure protection, trying to protect homes and property. Once we have those starting to be accomplished, we should be able to get lines around the fire and try to help really slow it down. Unfortunately, the weather conditions are not going to change or help us today. It's going to be hot, it's going to be dry, and we're in a red flag warning for the winds that are expected to pick up later today. So the conditions are about as bad as they can be for us to be fighting this fire. But we will stick with it tonight. I expect it'll take us days to be able to really manage it. I'm assuming there's questions about structure loss. At this point, we have heard unconfirmed reports that there may be structures that have burned in this fire, maybe 2. We don't have good confirmation or good address because, again, our focus right now is trying to slow the fire down, protect other structures, and make sure people are safe. We'll do a better assessment as the days progress and get you more information about what, if any, structures were impacted or lost. We're also evacuating animals from here to the Boulder County Fairgrounds. So if people are looking for animals or had animals moved, they'll be at the Boulder County Fairgrounds in Longmont, where they'll be safe and taken care of until we can get them back with owners and get them back in the neighborhood.
How rapidly would you say this fire is progressing?
You know, it's hard to say at this point. It's been jumping around a little bit and moving as the winds pick up. It finds fuel and advances. As the winds die down, you know, the further north and east it pushes, there are some grazed pastures out that way, which could help us slow things down. But that's going to be really dependent on the weather and the winds.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my next question. Is it more so just moving east and north, or is it picking up and kind of finding new spots?
It hasn't been really torching ahead. The winds haven't been that strong yet, but it has jumped over some roads, made progress north and east. So we'll be working on it all night.
I saw some people concerned that it could touch the Alexander Mountain fire. Is there anything you would want to say to people who have that fear?
Well, we don't know yet, because the direction, I have not been focused on the Alexander Mountain fire. This is my concern right now. We will be in communication, and the State Division of Fire Prevention and Control is looped into both fires and working with us in coordinating efforts. We're hopeful it won't touch, but we also want to make sure that we can share resources to address both fires.
How do people get down from that area? I had heard it's pretty limited.
It's pretty limited out to Highway 66. There are some ways to cut back and go north and loop back around, but most everybody is out of that neighborhood now. We had deputies going door to door, evacuating people, removing animals and livestock, and pushing out alert and warning to people to get them out of the area.
Obviously, you have a lot of community members here. What would you say to them right now?
I am sorry this is happening in your community. You know, I have been on pins and needles since 10:30 yesterday when the Alexander fire kicked off, knowing that conditions are really ripe for bad fire. And we're going to do everything we can to stop this fire. That's all I can offer you at this point. And we will keep working on it until it's out.
How have evacuations been going? Are people able to get out safely?
We have, as far as I know, and Vinny Montez can fill you in a little bit more on the evacuation and where those areas are. Haven't heard any really big concerns about getting people out. We've been able to get people out. The good thing about people who live in and around Lyons is they're pretty resilient and they're pretty smart, and they're not afraid to cut a fence or drive down a road that maybe they wouldn't otherwise drive down to get to safety. And we appreciate that they're taking care of themselves and getting out of harm's way.
Are you guys getting the support you need just considering the Alexander Mountain fire?
Well, it is a struggle across the entire western United States to get resources right now. There are huge fires burning in California and Oregon and even out of the country. And so we are working every angle we can to get structure protection engines up here to help protect homes, to get hand crews up here to start carving lines around the fire. We were fortunate to get air resources today because of the Alexander Mountain fire. So we're doing everything we can to get everybody we need here to help fight this fire. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Vinny Montez for any other questions and a little more information on where people can go for updates and more information about this fire.
Just so everybody knows, for road closure purposes, everything from US 36 or North St. Vrain at Blue Mountain Road, or what's called County Road 71 North as it moves into Larimer County. That area is closed for anybody going north from that point. And then we start working our way east along the outskirts of the north edge of Lyons, so along Steamboat Valley Road where 5th Avenue ends. That area north of there is closed, and as we start making our way towards the east, Stone Canyon Road, all the way out to 55th or 53rd and Ute Highway, everything north of those intersections that I just gave you, along US 36 or Ute Highway, is closed right now for residents going back in there. I want to share two things just to elaborate what the sheriff said. I know animals are an important part of our community here in Boulder County. So if there are livestock that need to be evacuated in any way, shape, or form, the Boulder County Fairgrounds, located at 95 Nelson Road, is open right now. Jefferson County has also extended their fairgrounds to us to be able to reallocate or relocate any livestock that need to go there. And then for people, if you don't have anywhere to go right now, there is an evacuation point at the fairgrounds near the exhibit hall where we have staff that are going there to give information out. It is not a shelter. I want to be clear about that. It's just an information point. So if people are evacuating out of the area, they have somewhere to go to get additional information. Additionally, we want to talk about, we're going to go over at the end some information for alert warning, but I want to cover updates for this fire. Everybody can go to BOCO Info, and text BOCO info, BOCO info, INFO, all one word, to 888-777, and you can receive text messages directly to your phone, so you get the latest and greatest updates. The information that you'll get in that text message will allow you to click a link, where it'll take you to the Boulder ODM information on the backside, where you're going to be able to get maps about current information. And why it's important to get BOCO info information: that'll have road closure updates, evacuation updates as far as where people can go and get resources. It's different than the alert, and I'll leave that for her to talk about at the end. But anything that's updated related to this particular fire, that's where you want to go to get the latest and greatest information. Are there other questions?
We have been getting updates here, listening to the live press conference from Boulder County Sheriff there as they update us on the situation there. Right now, about 85 acres is what they're saying the Stone Canyon fire is. It broke out about 1:30 today. We saw at least one structure lost. They don't know the amount of structures yet. They're guessing maybe two. They'll know more a little bit later.
Yeah, one thing that was also interesting was that they were able to share some of those aerial resources. So those planes that we've been seeing dropping the retardant, they're sharing them with Larimer County from the Alexander Mountain fire. So a sort of twisted silver lining to the fire that's burning up north. Thankfully, because those resources are already being used, they can take them a little bit further south and help with the Stone Canyon fire. A lot of work to be done still.
Yeah, super, super important. Stay with us. We are back with more updates right after this break. We, of course, are staying with this breaking news today.
With a lot of important information to get to on a couple of fires. This afternoon, alerted to what is now known as the Stone Canyon fire. We've been telling you it's burning just north of Lyons, and there are mandatory evacuation orders in place for the areas just south of the fire. We have been bringing you updates on that. We also have information on our website, but right now we want to get to your reporter who is live at the scene.
Yeah, Karen Morfitt, we know you are actually in Lyons, or moved outside of Lyons now, and we can see that fire right over your shoulder.
Yeah, Karen, this is where we were earlier today as we were making our way down here on Highway 36. We can tell this is, a little bit further away, but the vantage point, you can actually see just how much this fire has grown. Even in just the few minutes that we had been gone moving into Lyons, we had seen it up there off to the left here, which is Stone Mountain, move into Stone Canyon, and then up onto Indian Mountain there. And now it has moved quite a bit further north. You can see it's also moved quite a bit further east. This is what we were hearing from the officials there downtown Lyons talking about this and the updates that they had been given, that this fire continues to kind of find fuel and burn further north and further east. One thing that we can report, though, we're seeing a lot less wind at this point, so that's good news. We haven't seen quite as much heavy gusts that we had seen earlier today when we first arrived, but we also wanted to tell you that, as we were in Lyons, and we had seen a number of different fire crews from all over northern Colorado show up here at this fire. We saw crews from Longmont, we saw crews from Lafayette, we saw Allens Park, all making their way up to that neighborhood up there because there are so many structures up in that area. We've had a chance to also talk with a number of people who live up there, and they are anxiously awaiting any news about structures. So we're going to continue to follow this fire. We'll let you know of any updates. Right now we know about 85 acres, guys, and as soon as we get any more information about that, we'll be sure to update you here and on CBSNewsColorado.com. Kelly, Karen.
All right, your reporter there, Karen Morfitt, of course, covering this fire near Lyons for us.
And let's go ahead and get over to First Alert meteorologist Joe Rook, tracking the fire conditions. One thing that I noticed there, Joe, is Karen's hair didn't seem to be whipping around as much as we had seen in the last couple of hours. Are winds dying down?
I'll go through the latest on the winds. I want to just real quick mention, though, the relative humidity is still bone dry. I need time to explain the winds, so I got a long weather coming up in just a bit. I'll break it all down right after the break. Well, you saw Karen there on the ground. Kelly asking the question, what's going on with the winds right now? Because this is a really developing situation, honestly, minute by minute. For now, the winds are relatively calm. I want to dive down, though, into what we're expecting for the next few hours. Bear with me. Alexander Fire at the ridgetop, gust up to 25 miles per hour from the west. Drop down to about 6,500 feet. You're on the east side of the fire, closer to Loveland. That's where winds are coming from the south and east at about 15 miles per hour. Through the remainder of the evening, by sundown, all west-southwesterly wind up to about 15 or 20. That's the Alexander Fire. The Stone Canyon Fire, what we will see is a westerly wind when the sun goes down. That means air is accelerating downward as it's decreasing in elevation. So I would watch this fire overnight moving to the east-northeast, and that's exactly what Karen said. So that's going to be the movement with the Stone Canyon Fire, at least based off the current forecast. Now, that downsloping wind will also gust up to about 25 miles per hour. And you do see right now the westerly component, southwest, this is the Alexander Fire. Radar showing us the smoke plume. And then you see almost due west, now moving up to the southwest, our wind direction pulling the smoke to the northeast here with the Stone Canyon Fire. So a whole lot that we watch. There have been changes. Our red flag warnings towards Granby, Walden, these expire at 8 o'clock. Now, we've extended ours for Estes Park as well as the Stone Canyon Fire through midnight tonight, gust up to 30 miles per hour, stay on the table. This is the big change that we're seeing right now. And I got to tell you, by tomorrow, we only expand our fire zone out across the plains and northern portions of I-25. Elevated fire conditions will exist, so this is really not a day that we'll watch improvements overnight and into tomorrow. Now, I have issued a first alert weather day for tomorrow. The fire weather and thick wildfire smoke, even if you're not directly impacted, watch my futurecast here as we go overnight and into tomorrow morning. Moderate to thick smoke is anticipated. Longmont, Boulder, Broomfield, Golden, Conifer, Denver, Highlands Ranch, all included in that. This is dangerous. You can almost taste the smoke for the day tomorrow. There will be a few hour window rather, that we pick up on that. So we need to watch the air quality closely, because when you're seeing the smoke coming directly towards the metro, that will cause health concerns. Temperature wise, copy and paste right near the triple digits for the western slope, 70s, 80s out across the high country, 97 for the metro. So 1 or 2 degrees cooler, 2 or 3 degrees cooler for Loveland as well as the Lyons area. So another hot day will be on tap throughout the super 7-day forecast. Guys, little rain chances will exist. So Kelly and Karen, it's hot and dry through really the next 7 to still 10 days at this point.
Can't be careful enough out there. Joe, thank you so much. Well, we, of course, are staying on top of all this breaking news as those fires continue to burn here in Colorado.
Yeah, we've seen at least one structure wiped out by flames. This is north of Lyons in the Eagle Ridge area. There are mandatory evacuations, of course. We'll have many more details after the break.
We are staying on top of the developments of fires burning in Boulder and Larimer counties.
The Stone Canyon fire forcing evacuations near the town of Lyons. Your reporter Andrew Hobner joins us live now from the newsroom desk with the latest evacuation information and those road closures, Andrew.
Yeah, we'll keep this as quick and concise as we can. Just drop right into the map and we can show you all at home exactly what it is that we're seeing. Road closures all the way up of Highway 36 and Highway 66. Any northward roads that lead up out of Lyons are all closed. Now, the evacuation area goes all the way up toward Indian Mountain, towards Muggins Gulch, just on that side of Elk Ridge, Hell Canyon. There's specific roads in here that include Stone Canyon Drive, Blue Mountain Road, County Road 37 East. And then when we actually go a little further out, you can see that the evacuation areas are now one large evacuation area that spans all the way from the south end of Masonville to the north end of Lyons. Now, this one particular area that I'm going to highlight is the north side of Carter Lake, north to Highway 34. That was a voluntary evacuation order until about 25 minutes ago. It is now a mandatory evacuation order. There's also mandatory evacuation orders in place on the west side of this Alexander Mountain fire near Storm Mountain, Drake to Dam Store along Highway 34, now along County Road 43, from Drake to just west of Old Bridge Road. That is also now a mandatory evacuation. This area up north of 34 is actually a voluntary evacuation. That's Dunraven Glade Road, Streamside Drive, that's north of County Road 43, and then a lot of road closures that actually lead in to Lake Estes, and we have so much more coverage coming as well as we look at both of these fires that seem to be exploding in the Front Range here today.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew. We, of course, will check back in with you as we get more information on both of these wildfires burning in Colorado.
Yeah, our coverage of the fires, of course, burning continues right now. CBS Colorado at 5. And we do have breaking news here now at 5 o'clock for you. A second large wildfire forcing families to leave their homes at little notice. And from our copter, we can see what appears to be a home lost. This new fire called the Stone Canyon Fire, and it's burning north of Lyons.
We also just learned within the last hour the Alexander Mountain wildfire has grown to over 3,500 acres. That fire said to be growing in 3 different directions, and more mandatory evacuations have been ordered, including Masonville and the north side of Carter Lake. And the evacuation area has now merged between both of those fires. The Alexander Mountain fire started on Monday just to the west of Loveland and has Highway 34 closed. The new fire today burning north of Lyons is on the border of Boulder and Larimer counties. Both of these fires do pose a threat to homes and, of course, to lives.
Yeah, we are dedicated to bringing you the important information to keep you and your loved ones safe. Your reporters covering both of these fires for you tonight, Olivia Young and Dylan Thomas, following the evacuations and the impact of the Alexander Mountain fire. We want to start, though, with this newest fire and your reporter, Karen Morfitt, live near Lyons. Karen?
Well, Karen, we've been here throughout the day, and we've been talking to folks who have been evacuated from that area here. Storm Canyon Fire has evacuated a number of different neighborhoods in this area. Now, we, again, have been talking to families who were given just a little bit of notice before they were moved out of this area. If you can take a look behind me, when we first arrived here off to the left, that is Storm Mountain. And then you can see there it goes into the canyon up Indian Mountain there, and now has moved over that ridge and further east. We know that the evacuations have expanded north and east, and we have seen this fire grow from where we are and where we've been for several hours now. We also just were able to get an update from Boulder County officials that this fire had grown to, he was anticipating it would be over 100 acres, but official count was 85 acres. You can take a listen right now as he talked a little bit about their assessment of the structures that have been impacted by this fire.
At this point, we have heard unconfirmed reports that there may be structures that have burned in this fire, maybe 2. We don't have good confirmation or good address because, again, our focus right now is trying to slow the fire down, protect other structures, and make sure people are safe. We'll do a better assessment as the days progress and get you more information about what, if any, structures were impacted or lost.
Yeah, you heard it there. They are first focused on getting this fire contained as it continues to spread. We continue to see aircraft coming in and dropping retardant on this fire in all the different areas that seem to just flare up as soon as the wind moves through this area. We're going to stay out here. We're going to keep a close eye on this and continue to update you on all of the evacuation information, the size of this fire, and hopefully some containment over the night, throughout the night as we remain here. Kelly and Karen.
All right, Karen, thank you. We know the fight from the air, of course, has been crucial to helping firefighters on both the Stoned Canyon fire and the Alexander Mountain fire. We have seen those flights coming and going from Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. Such a good sight to see. We will update you on the state resources for these fires and any others tonight, of course, at 6 o'clock. Now, we just learned that the Alexander Mountain wildfire burning in Larimer County has grown to over 3,500 acres.
And unfortunately, there is no containment so far on this one. Your reporter in northern Colorado, Dylan Thomas, joining us live in Larimer County tonight.
And Dylan, we know you've been covering this fire since you saw it from your window yesterday morning.
Yeah, and at that point, it was only a matter of a few acres when I first saw it. This morning, when I woke up, they told us it was around 900 acres, and since around 9 this morning, it has blown up in size, as you just mentioned, to about 3,500 acres. But a matter of minutes ago, the sheriff's office taking me up into the canyon to be able to get an up-close look at the fire. Take a look at this video shot by our photographer, Dale Atchison, just a matter of 30 to 40 minutes ago. This video showing the active flames burning right outside the Big Thompson Canyon at the mouth of the canyon, just a matter of 100 or 200 yards away from the iconic dam store that greets people at the mouth of the Big Thompson Canyon. We do know that the east side and up the canyon do have threats to some structural properties, but at this time we don't know of any loss to any properties as of right now. We should note 3,245 mandatory evacuations have been issued with another 826 voluntary, and they are going to be doing more mapping later today when it comes to the aerial view. But in the end, the sheriff and the other response agencies tell us that it's the men and women on the ground battling this fire that are ultimately helping them battle this blaze.
Those hotshot crews are really the tip of the spear. They're the folks that when we've got challenging terrain, technical assignments, they're the ones that we put out there to do that. So we're really looking forward to those assets getting here, but they are in real short supply, and the fact that we've got 2 coming is helpful, but boy, we'd take all we could get.
Not helping the cause, a lot of those air resources now heading south to the fire that Karen Morford's at that I can actually see from where we are now. Reporting live in Larimer County, Dylan Thomas covering Colorado First.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke out there too. Thank you so much, Dylan. Well, with families having to leave their homes, many people are also evacuating livestock. This afternoon, we learned animals brought to the ranch complex will now be moved to the fairgrounds at Island Grove Park in Greeley. Your reporter, Olivia Young, continuing our team coverage tonight. And Olivia, with these fast-changing conditions, it is really important for folks to really follow those evacuation orders.
Absolutely, Kelly. So important. And take a look at this plume of smoke behind me. We have seen in the last few hours it just grow and expand going this direction. And earlier today, right here on Glade Road, was packed with cars driving towards that smoke, hoping to get their animals and essentials before evacuating.
We're evacuating a friend right now.
Under a plume of smoke, a slow procession leaves the Masonville area, the latest neighborhood mandated to evacuate the Alexander Mountain fire.
But I thought I'd come up and take a look at this and see how it's advancing.
They join hundreds of others displaced by the fire since Monday.
I guess I've been pretty lucky. Nothing over where I live on Storm Mountain, nothing is burned down at this point.
Larimer County says evacuation notices have been sent out to 4,200 devices.
See, look at that. Isn't that scary?
Further away, others watch the plume grow and wait for evacuation orders of their own.
If the wind changes today and it starts coming more from the north, we'll be in the evacuation zone.
Ashley Bevan is preparing her truck and trailer to evacuate her 2 horses if need be.
I have about a week's worth of food to bring with me. It's already loaded up with all the other stuff I need for them, boots and saddles and all that stuff.
Bevan watches the plume for signs that it's time to go. She says a friend can watch her horses.
Living here, you have to be ready.
Closer to the fire, Brendan Clover hurries towards the smoke.
Yep, we're coming to get load of goats and alpacas and llamas and stuff.
He says animal owners are coordinating evacuation help on social media.
You know, that's pretty terrifying, you know. There's a lot of animals and stuff up there. Yesterday we were evacuating the Sylvandale Ranch. Hopefully they can get this fire under control. It's pretty scary.
Again, large animals should now be taken to Island Grove in Greeley. You can bring your small animals to NOCO Humane Society. And people, they can shelter at Foundations Church or Estes Park Event Center. In Loveland, I'm Olivia Young, covering Colorado First.
Olivia, thank you. Now, these fires, of course, fueled by our heat and really the lack of rain.
Yeah, this is a first alert weather day due to these lasting hot temperatures. First alert meteorologist Joe Rook in the Weather Center tonight. And Joe, this weather certainly being difficult right now.
Oh, it is not making anyone's lives easier. Some good news for now, temporarily. The wind gusts, they've backed off a bit. What I can tell you by sundown, so the next few hours, the Alexander fire, instead of our lower elevation having a southeasterly flow where the ridge is coming from the west, we'll all be dealing with a westerly flow from anywhere 15, 20 miles per hour. Now, the Stone Canyon, it's not that promising. All is calm for now, but we get a downsloping, accelerating wind. So actually, as the sun goes down and a stronger westerly flow dominates, you see my lack of barbs here. What we will start to see is wind speeds really increase to just about 25 miles per hour. The dry air is here and it's not going anywhere. We're starting to see relief. This is what you typically see. We were at 8% in Loveland, up to 10%. This is the measure of relative humidity, water vapor in an air molecule. This is really what you would look at for embers popping out of the fire. Can they maintain their heat when they're lofted and driven by the wind? The answer now is yes, and overnight we only get up to about 25%. That's bad. That is not a lot of relief, and that's why we saw last night the Alexander fire almost double in size. So little relief for relative humidity. Temperatures, you're still in the mid-90s at this hour. It's no coincidence we have been dry recently. We are dry just about through the extended forecast. And that is why both of our fires wind up being in moderate to severe drought conditions. So a lot of dry timber to work with, a lot of fire fuel. Now, changes in store for tomorrow. It still is elevated fire concerns. It still is mild temperatures. But a big, thick plume of wildfire smoke sets up across the Front Range, guys. A whole lot we're tracking here in the weather world. Your full forecast is where I'll break down all the latest and greatest of the information.
All right, Joe, thank you. The Alexander Mountain wildfire, now the largest fire burning in our state. We do have a look at just some of those fires, including one in Mesa Verde National Park and fires near the communities of Norwood and Cedar Edge.
Well, we want to update you now on the investigation into the deaths of a woman and baby in Denver. A man is now facing charges for the woman's death while the investigation into the infant's death continues. Police tell us Nicholas Mickelbus called 911 and said he found his wife on the ground bleeding and his infant daughter not breathing. This was at a home Monday in the Denver's Central Park neighborhood. Police say it appeared the woman suffered from blunt force injuries. She died at a hospital. The child was dead at the home, but police say she had no visible injuries. The suspect is now facing a first-degree murder charge.
We continue to follow our wildfires burning outside Lyons and Loveland tonight.
And we will have a live update next as there are now new evacuations in Lyons due to the fire burning there.
Another look probably associated with some of those new evacuations. Wind directions changing a bit. The latest on the fire conditions. Your first alert weather day tomorrow. I'll break it all down after the break.
A Broncos defense that's ahead of schedule with great expectations. I'm Richie Casalino, following the Broncos at camp.
Welcome back. I'm Karen Morfitt. I am monitoring the Stone Canyon fire from just outside of Lyons. Behind me here, we have new evacuation orders that have just been issued for the town of Lyons. Those new evacuations areas include north of Broadway in town and east of 5th Avenue. Now, we are told that this is due to a shift in winds, which we could see from where we are here just off of Highway 36. We saw the wind shift. We saw that smoke move with it. And then almost immediately, we saw those new evacuation orders issued. Evacuations again include areas north of Broadway in the town of Lyons and east of 5th Avenue. We are going to continue to keep an eye on this situation. We are also going to speak with folks who have moved out of Lyons due to that evacuation order. We will continue to keep you updated here on CBS News Colorado and CBSNews.com. In Boulder County, Karen Morfitt covering Colorado First.
And I'm your Northern Colorado reporter, Dylan Thomas, in Larimer County, where the Alexander Mountain Fire continues to burn. This morning, it was around 900 acres, has exploded in the last 5 or 6 hours. Now it is up to 3,500 acres and counting, 0% containment. And we have learned for the first time since this fire started yesterday that there are homes that are potentially threatened by this fire. But at this time, there is no reports of structural loss. Reporting live in Larimer County, Dylan Thomas, covering Colorado First.
The trustees for the town of Lakeside are poised to vote tonight, deciding the fate of its police chief and his daughter, who's the town clerk.
A grand jury indicted the pair on felony theft and embezzlement charges, but both remain on the town payroll. CBS News Colorado investigation revealed Police Chief Robert Gordonier was selling town police vehicles to his daughter for a fraction of their value. A grand jury then said that Brenda Hamilton was turning around and selling them on the open market and pocketing thousands of dollars. Both criminally charged. One of the town's trustees, Diana Tao, said she is going to push tonight to have Chief Gordonier removed from his position.
I would like to push for making sure that he is no longer, Robert Gordonier no longer able to be as a board member, police chief, and no longer has access to any of Lakeside's information until his trial is over.
Dal went on to say that she feels betrayed by the police chief and his daughter, believes they should both be on leave without pay. Your investigator Brian Moss will be at that meeting tonight and update us tonight at 10 o'clock. Lawyers for former Denver Bronco Terrell Davis say they and their client were not aware Davis was no longer on a travel ban with United Airlines. As we've been following earlier this month, Davis was handcuffed, removed from a United plane. Earlier in the flight, he had tapped a flight attendant's arm to ask for some ice for his son. We now know that flight attendant no longer with United. This morning, Davis posted he was on a no-fly list. Well, United says that was rescinded the very next day. Now, in a statement, United says, we discussed with Mr. Davis's team that it had been rescinded. We have apologized to Mr. Davis for his experience and continue to review our handling of incidents like this.
Well, this is a first alert weather day. It's not hard to figure out why, but clearly with all the fire danger, and then we've seen a lot of shifting winds. Karen Morfitt was just talking about that near Lyons.
Yeah, we had a southwesterly flow, now it's veering due west, and that would then now put Lyons not in the safe zone, if you will. Let me show you. I'm trying to visualize this. We're starting with the Alexander fire. You're looking at radar, but it's really hard to show you wind speeds when we're not past a certain threshold. So our radar is actually picking up on the smoke plume. The Alexander fire, for example, the winds are coming from the southwest, pushing the smoke up to the northeast, and we're still seeing that very evident. When you do switch gears, though, towards the Lyons fire, you see it's more so due west, and that would be the slight shift of our wind. So instead of blowing the fire away from Lyons, it now has the potential with our low relative humidity to be a bit more sporadic. With all of that said, there are changes as well to the red flag warnings. For Granby, Walden, these will expire by 8 p.m. They've been extended until midnight for the foothills, so this would include both fires with the gustier winds as well as the very dry air. This humidity overnight, only near 15 to 20%, is very bad recovery, so fire concerns do even exist overnight. And then into the day tomorrow, what are we watching? All of the eastern plains, as well as portions of northern I-25, are now expanded into our fire zone. So this is what we'll be watching very closely. Fire weather remains at the top of the mind. So tomorrow will be a first alert weather day. We've decided to extend it again for elevated fire concerns, but thick wildfire smoke makes a return. Let me show you exactly what we watched. This doesn't include, important to remember, the Stone Canyon fire. By 5 during this evening, we watched the smoke continue due east, but overnight a new boundary moves through, and watch what happens as you head out the door tomorrow morning. This is moderate to thick smoke. Not all that often that we'll see this. This is actually significantly worse than the Canadian smoke we dealt with last week. So it will be a very poor air quality day out the door, and then really lingering throughout the day for tomorrow. So there will be some health concerns as you're venturing out for really the entirety of the Front Range. Now, 98 out across the western slope, 70s and mid to upper 80s for portions of the high country. Very similar. Almost a rinse and repeat or copy and paste weather day will be on tap, which is not necessarily good news. Triple digits for Highway 50, 96 at the airport, puts us about 1, maybe 2 degrees cooler. 97 for the metro. Looking up towards the Lyons and Loveland area where we have the fires, it's 1, maybe 3 degrees cooler. So really similar wind speeds are what we're tracking. Jumping in towards Larimer, Weld County. Berthoud is looking at 95. Our fire's just west of that. Loveland will be at 96 for the day tomorrow. So tomorrow, we know, is a copy and paste. We'll keep the first alert weather day. Thursday, it's looking more or less the same. 97 degrees, limited rain chances. You may be looking at this saying, hey, 10% chance of showers Thursday and Friday. It's not necessarily a good thing. We have a lot of dry air near the surface. So rain evaporates as it falls. What are you left with? A lightning bolt. Take all of this energy and heat, confine it to a small area. That could be another fire concern that Mother Nature throws our way. Otherwise, through the remainder of the extended forecast, we are looking at temperatures well above average, above the 90-degree mark across the board. Little to no rain relief, so we are hot and dry. We are stuck with this pattern. I think we'll have our hands full over the next couple of days, guys, with all of these fire concerns, the hot conditions, and now we throw into the mix thick wildfire smoke.
Yeah, we sure will. All right, we'll keep a close watch on everything. Joe, thank you. And we continue to follow those Colorado wildfires that we're talking about, forcing so many evacuations.
And coming up, a check from Broncos training camp. We are following breaking news with 2 large wildfires burning along the Front Range. There are new evacuations in the town of Lyons due to the Stone Canyon fire. They do include areas north of Broadway and east of 5th Avenue. We have seen what has looked like at least 1 home burning in this area because of the fire on the border of Larimer and Boulder counties.
All right, the Heat certainly not keeping our Denver Broncos off the practice field or the fans from attending.
Yep, as Richie Cozzolino shows us from Broncos headquarters, the defense is ahead of schedule.
With a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball, it is the Broncos defense that may anchor this team this season. It is a rare year at Mile High where the defensive coordinator actually returns, and that stability is benefiting a Broncos defensive unit that already feels up to speed. It is also especially helpful when you've played a few years with your teammate. Outside linebackers Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper are both from Ohio State, both drafted in 2021, and now both looking to show out on the final year of their rookie deals. The Broncos defense, bottom 5 in yards allowed just a year ago, is hoping that Buckeye brotherhood can provide an advantage.
That's my dog. I mean, I played with him 4 years at Ohio State, so I think just, being at a place like Ohio State together and going through that hard training and then making it out on the other side, I think we just able to hold each other to that standard and not afraid to hurt one another's feelings if we don't live up to that standard. And he know how to push my buttons. I know how to push his buttons. So, I'm grateful to have him as a teammate.
Barron also said a big emphasis this summer is the run defense. The team did not like how porous they were up front a year ago. A physical and aggressive mindset is the standard at camp. With the Broncos, Richie Cozzolino, CBS Sports, Colorado.
And don't forget, we've got you covered all through training camp. You can look for updates streaming on CBS News Colorado and on CBSNewsColorado.com. Up next, we'll update our fires and forecast.
We will stay with this breaking news tonight. A look at the shot from our CDOT camera. You can see both our large wildfires. They're burning along the Front Range. One, the Alexander Mountain Fire burning near Loveland, now over 3,500 acres. The other, the Stone Canyon wildfire, which started today near Lyons. Now there are some evacuations in Lyons itself. We have seen what looked like one home that had burned, both fires growing, and we will keep you updated throughout the evening. Joe?
Yeah, what we will watch, first alert weather day tomorrow, why smoke dispersion overnight actually decreases, meaning we trap all the wildfire smoke. So I think a poor air quality day will be on tap. Watch it when we put our Futurecast smoke into motion. Overnight tonight, just a little bit of a pocket, but by tomorrow morning out the door, not only do we get the smoke from the Alexander fire, the Lyons fire, but an invasion from Canadian wildfire smoke once again. Very poor air quality on and off throughout the day tomorrow. Obviously, this is all an evolving forecast, guys. It's hard to keep up with how quickly the fires are growing and whatnot, but poor wildfire smoke is headed our way.
Yeah.
If we can keep the wind gusts down,
It'll give us some relief at least.
Yeah, firefighters could use that help from Mother Nature as well.
All the help we can get, but really, again, what we do watch, though, is just as we go overnight, we get a downsloping wind. Could mean trouble for the Lyons fire.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on that one. Thank you so much, Joe.
Our news continues now on our 24-hour streaming service. We'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock. And we do have breaking news here now at 5 o'clock for you. A second large wildfire forcing families to leave their homes with little notice. And from our copter, we can see what appears to be a home lost. This new fire called the Stone Canyon Fire, and it's burning north of Lyons.
We also just learned within the last hour the Alexander Mountain wildfire has grown to over 3,500 acres. That fire said to be growing in 3 different directions, and more mandatory evacuations have been ordered, including Masonville and the north side of Carter Lake. And the evacuation area has now merged between both of those fires. The Alexander Mountain Fire started on Monday just to the west of Loveland and has Highway 34 closed. The new fire today burning north of Lyons is on the border of Boulder and Larimer counties. Both of these fires do pose a threat to homes and, of course, to lives.
Yeah, we are dedicated to bringing you the important information to keep you and your loved ones safe. Your reporters covering both of these fires for you tonight, Olivia Young and Dylan Thomas, following the evacuations and the impact of the Alexander Mountain Fire. We want to start, though, with this newest fire and your reporter, Karen Morfitt, live near Lyons. Karen?
Well, Karen, we've been here throughout the day, and we've been talking to folks who have been evacuated from that area here. Storm Canyon Fire has evacuated a number of different neighborhoods in this area. Now, we, again, have been talking to families who were given just a little bit of notice before they were moved out of this area. If you can take a look behind me, when we first arrived here off to the left, that is Storm Mountain. Then you can see there it goes into the canyon up Indian Mountain there, and now has moved over that ridge and further east. We know that the evacuations have expanded north and east, and we have seen this fire grow from where we are and where we've been for several hours now. We also just were able to get an update from Boulder County officials that this fire had grown to, he was anticipating it would be over 100 acres, but official count was 85 acres. You can take a listen right now as he talked a little bit about their assessment of the structures that have been impacted by this fire.
At this point, we have heard unconfirmed reports that there may be structures that have burned in this fire, maybe 2. We don't have good confirmation or good address because, again, our focus right now is trying to slow the fire down, protect other structures, and make sure people are safe. We'll do a better assessment as the days progress and get you more information about what, if any, structures were impacted or lost.
Yeah, you heard it there. They are first focused on getting this fire contained as it continues to spread. We continue to see aircraft coming in and dropping retardant on this fire in all the different areas that seem to just flare up as soon as the wind moves through this area. We're going to stay out here. We're going to keep a close eye on this and continue to update you on all of the evacuation information, the size of this fire, and hopefully some containment over the night, throughout the night as we remain here. Kelly and Karen.
All right, Karen, thank you. We know the fight from the air, of course, has been crucial to helping firefighters on both the Stone Canyon Fire and the Alexander Mountain Fire. We have seen those flights coming and going from Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. Such a good sight to see. We will update you on the state resources for these fires and any others tonight, of course, at 6 o'clock. Now, we just learned that the Alexander Mountain wildfire burning in Larimer County has grown to over 3,500 acres.
And unfortunately, there is no containment so far on this one. Your reporter in northern Colorado, Dylan Thomas, joining us live in Larimer County tonight.
And Dylan, we know you've been covering this fire since you saw it from your window yesterday morning.
Yeah, and at that point, it was only a matter of a few acres when I first saw it. This morning when I woke up, they told us it was around 900 acres, and since around 9 this morning, it has blown up in size, as you just mentioned, to about 3,500 acres. But a matter of minutes ago, the sheriff's office taking me up into the canyon to be able to get an up-close look at the fire. Take a look at this video shot by our photographer, Dale Atchison, just a matter of 30 to 40 minutes ago. This video showing the active flames burning right outside the Big Thompson Canyon at the mouth of the canyon, just a matter of 100 or 200 yards away from the iconic dam store that greets people at the mouth of the Big Thompson Canyon. We do know that the east side and up the canyon do have threats to some structural properties, but at this time we don't know of any loss to any properties as of right now. We should note 3,245 mandatory evacuations have been issued, with another 826 voluntary, and they are going to be doing more mapping later today when it comes to the aerial view. But in the end, the sheriff and the other response agencies tell us that it's the men and women on the ground battling this fire that are ultimately helping them battle this blaze.
Those hotshot crews are really the tip of the spear. They're the folks that, when we've got challenging terrain, technical assignments, they're the ones that we put out there to do that. So we're really looking forward to those assets getting here, but they are in real short supply, and the fact that we've got 2 coming is helpful, but boy, we'd take all we could get.
Not helping the cause, a lot of those air resources now heading south to the fire that Karen Morfitt's at, that I can actually see from where we are now. Reporting live in Larimer County, Dylan Thomas covering Colorado First.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke out there too. Thank you so much, Dylan. Well, with families having to leave their homes, many people are also evacuating livestock. This afternoon, we learned animals brought to the ranch complex will now be moved to the fairgrounds at Island Grove Park in Greeley. Your reporter, Olivia Young, continuing our team coverage tonight. And Olivia, with these fast-changing conditions, it is really important for folks to really follow those evacuation orders.
Absolutely, Kelly. So important. And take a look at this plume of smoke behind me. We have seen in the last few hours it just grow and expand going this direction. And earlier today, right here on Glade Road, was packed with cars driving towards that smoke, hoping to get their animals and essentials before evacuating.
We're evacuating a friend right now.
Under a plume of smoke, a slow procession leaves the Masonville area, the latest neighborhood mandated to evacuate the Alexander Mountain fire.
But I thought I'd come up and take a look at this and see how it's advancing.
They join hundreds of others displaced by the fire since Monday.
I guess I've been pretty lucky. Nothing over where I live on Storm Mountain, nothing is burned down at this point.
Larimer County says evacuation notices have been sent out to 4,200 devices.
See, look at that. Isn't that scary?
Further away, others watch the plume grow and wait for evacuation orders of their own.
If the wind changes today and it starts coming more from the north, we'll be in the evacuation zone.
Ashley Bevan is preparing her truck and trailer to evacuate her 2 horses if need be.
I have about a week's worth of food to bring with me. It's already loaded up with all the other stuff I need for them, boots and saddles and all that stuff.
Bevan watches the plume for signs that it's time to go. She says a friend can watch her horses.
Living here, you have to be ready.
Closer to the fire, Brendan Clover hurries towards the smoke.
Yep, we're coming to get a load of goats and alpacas and llamas and stuff.
He says animal owners are coordinating evacuation help on social media.
You know, that's pretty terrifying, you know. There's a lot of animals and stuff up there. Yesterday we were evacuating the Sylvandale Ranch. Hopefully they can get this fire under control. It's pretty scary.
Again, large animals should now be taken to Island Grove in Greeley. You can bring your small animals to NOCO Humane Society. And people, they can shelter at Foundations Church or Estes Park Event Center. In Loveland, I'm Olivia Young, covering Colorado First.
Olivia, thank you. Now, these fires, of course, fueled by our heat and really the lack of rain.
Yeah, this is a first alert weather day due to these lasting hot temperatures. First alert meteorologist Joe Rook in the Weather Center tonight. Joe, this weather certainly being difficult right now.
Oh, it is not making anyone's lives easier. Some good news for now, temporarily. The wind gusts, they've backed off a bit. What I can tell you by sundown, so the next few hours, the Alexander fire, instead of our lower elevation having a southeasterly flow where the ridge is coming from the west, we'll all be dealing with a westerly flow from anywhere 15, 20 miles per hour. Now, the Stone Canyon, it's not that promising. All is calm for now. now, but we get a downsloping, accelerating wind. So actually, as the sun goes down and a stronger westerly flow dominates, you see my lack of barbs here. What we will start to see is wind speeds really increase to just about 25 miles per hour. The dry air is here and it's not going anywhere. We're starting to see relief. This is what you typically see. We were at 8% in Loveland, up to 10%. This is the measure of relative humidity, water vapor in an air molecule. This is really what you would look at for embers popping out of the fire. Can they maintain their heat when they're lofted and driven by the wind? The answer now is yes, and overnight we only get up to about 25%. That's bad. That is not a lot of relief, and that's why we saw last night the Alexander fire almost double in size. So little relief for relative humidity. Temperatures, you're still in the mid-90s at this hour. It's no coincidence we've been dry recently. We are dry just about through the extended forecast. And that is why both of our fires wind up being in moderate to severe drought conditions. So a lot of dry timber to work with, a lot of fire fuel. Now, changes in store for tomorrow. It still is elevated fire concerns. It still is mild temperatures. But a big, thick plume of wildfire smoke sets up across the Front Range, guys. A whole lot we're tracking here in the weather world. Your full forecast is where I'll break down all the latest and greatest of the information.
All right, Joe, thank you. The Alexander Mountain wildfire, now the largest fire burning in our state. We do have a look at just some of those fires, including one in Mesa Verde National Park and fires near the communities of Norwood and Cedar Edge.
Well, we want to update you now on the investigation into the deaths of a woman and baby in Denver. A man is now facing charges for the woman's death while the investigation into the infant's death continues. Police tell us Nicholas Mickelbus called 911 and said he found his wife on the ground bleeding and his infant daughter not breathing. This was at a home Monday in the Denver's Central Park neighborhood. Police say it appeared the woman suffered from blunt force injuries. She died at a hospital. The child was dead at the home, but police say she had no visible injuries. The suspect is now facing a first-degree murder charge.
We continue to follow our wildfires burning outside Lyons and Loveland tonight.
And we will have a live update next as there are now new evacuations in Lyons due to the fire burning there.
Another look probably associated with some of those new evacuations. Wind directions changing a bit. The latest on the fire conditions. Your first alert weather day tomorrow. I'll break it all down after the break.
A Broncos defense that's ahead of schedule with great expectations. I'm Richie Casalino, following the Broncos at camp.
Welcome back. I'm Karen Morfitt. I am monitoring the Stone Canyon fire from just outside of Lyons. Behind me here, we have new evacuation orders that have just been issued for the town of Lyons. Those new evacuations areas include north of Broadway in town and east of 5th Avenue. Now, we are told that this is due to a shift in winds, which we could see from where we are here just off of Highway 36. We saw the wind shift. We saw that smoke move with it. And then almost immediately, we saw those new evacuation orders issued. Evacuations, again, include areas north of Broadway in the town of Lyons and east of 5th Avenue. We are going to continue to keep an eye on this situation. We are also going to speak with folks who have moved out of Lyons due to that evacuation order. We will continue to keep you updated here on CBS News Colorado and CBSNews.com. In Boulder County, Karen Morfitt covering Colorado First.
And I'm your Northern Colorado reporter, Dylan Thomas, in Larimer County, where the Alexander Mountain Fire continues to burn. This morning, it was around 900 acres, has exploded in the last 5 or 6 hours. Now it is up to 3,500 acres and counting, 0% containment. And we have learned for the first time since this fire started yesterday that there are homes that are potentially threatened by this fire. But at this time, there is no reports of structural loss. Reporting live in Larimer County, Dylan Thomas, covering Colorado First.
The trustees for the town of Lakeside are poised to vote tonight, deciding the fate of its police chief and his daughter, who's the town clerk.
A grand jury indicted the pair on felony theft and embezzlement charges, but both remain on the town payroll. CBS News Colorado investigation revealed police chief Robert Gordonier was selling town police vehicles to his daughter for a fraction of their value. A grand jury then said that Brenda Hamilton was turning around and selling them on the open market and pocketing thousands of dollars. Both criminally charged. One of the town's trustees, Diana Tao, said she is going to push tonight to have Chief Gordonier removed from his position.
I would like to push for making sure that he is no longer, Robert Gordonier no longer able to be as a board member, police chief, and no longer has access to any of Lakeside's basically information until his trial is over.
Dell went on to say that she feels betrayed by the police chief and his daughter, believes they should both be on leave without pay. Your investigator Brian Moss will be at that meeting tonight and update us tonight at 10 o'clock. Lawyers for former Denver Bronco Terrell Davis say they and their client were not aware Davis was no longer on a travel ban with United Airlines. As we've been following earlier this month, Davis was handcuffed, removed from a United plane. Earlier in the flight, he had tapped a flight attendant's arm to ask for some ice for his son. We now know that flight attendant no longer with United. This morning, Davis posted he was on a no-fly list. Well, United says that was rescinded the very next day. Now, in a statement, United says, we discussed with Mr. Davis's team that it had been rescinded. We have apologized to Mr. Davis for his experience and continue to review our handling of incidents like this.
Well, this is a first alert weather day. It's not hard to figure out why, but clearly with all the fire danger, and then we've seen a lot of shifting winds. Karen Morfitt was just talking about that near Lyons.
Yeah, we had a southwesterly flow, now it's veering due west, and that would then now put Lyons not in the safe zone, if you will. Let me show you. I'm trying to visualize this. We're starting with the Alexander fire. You're looking at radar, but it's really hard to show you wind speeds when we're not past a certain threshold. So our radar is actually picking up on the smoke plume. The Alexander fire, for example, the winds are coming from the southwest, pushing the smoke up to the northeast, and we're still seeing that very evident. When you do switch gears, though, towards the Lyons fire, you see it's more so due west, and that would be the slight shift of our wind. So instead of blowing the fire away from Lyons, it now has the potential with our low relative humidity to be a bit more sporadic. With all of that said, there are changes as well to the red flag warnings. For Granby, Walden, these will expire by 8 p.m. They've been extended until midnight for the foothills, so this would include both fires with the gustier winds as well as the very dry air. This humidity overnight, only near 15 to 20%, is very bad recovery, so fire concerns do even exist overnight. And then into the day tomorrow, what are we watching? all of the eastern plains, as well as portions of northern I-25, are now expanded into our fire zone. So this is what we'll be watching very closely. Fire weather remains at the top of the mind. So tomorrow will be a first alert weather day. We've decided to extend it again for elevated fire concerns, but thick wildfire smoke makes a return. Let me show you exactly what we watched. This doesn't include, important to remember, the Stone Canyon fire. By 5 during this evening, we watched the smoke continue due east, but overnight a new boundary moves through, and watch what happens as you head out the door tomorrow morning. This is moderate to thick smoke. Not all that often that we'll see this. This is actually significantly worse than the Canadian smoke we dealt with last week. So it will be a very poor air quality day out the door, and then really lingering throughout the day for tomorrow. So there will be some health concerns as you're venturing out for really the entirety of the Front Range. Now, 98 out across the western slope, 70s and mid to upper 80s for portions of the high country. Very similar. Almost a rinse and repeat or copy and paste weather day will be on tap, which is not necessarily good news. Triple digits for Highway 50, 96 at the airport, puts us about 1, maybe 2 degrees cooler. 97 for the metro. Looking up towards the Lyons and Loveland area where we have the fires, is 1, maybe 3 degrees cooler. So really similar wind speeds are what we're tracking. Jumping in towards Larimer, Weld County. Berthoud is looking at 95. Our fires just west of that. Loveland will be at 96 for the day tomorrow. So tomorrow, we know, is a copy and paste. We'll keep the first alert weather day. Thursday, it's looking more or less the same. 97 degrees, limited rain chances. You may be looking at this saying, hey, 10% chance of showers Thursday and Friday. It's not necessarily a good thing. We have a lot of dry air near the surface. So rain evaporates as it falls. What are you left with? A lightning bolt. Take all of this energy and heat, confine it to a small area. That could be another fire concern that Mother Nature throws our way. Otherwise, through the remainder of the extended forecast, we are looking at temperatures well above average, above the 90-degree mark across the board. Little to no rain relief, so we are hot and dry. We are stuck with this pattern. I think we'll have our hands full over the next couple of days, guys, with all of these fire concerns, the hot conditions, and now we throw into the mix thick wildfire smoke.
Yeah, we sure will. All right, we'll keep a close watch on everything. Joe, thank you. And we continue to follow those Colorado wildfires that we're talking about, forcing so many evacuations.
And coming up, a check from Broncos training camp. We are following breaking news with 2 large wildfires burning along the Front Range. There are new evacuations in the town of Lyons due to the Stone Canyon fire. They do include areas north of Broadway and east of 5th Avenue. We have seen what has looked like at least 1 home burning in this area because of the fire on the border of Larimer and Boulder counties.
All right, the heat certainly not keeping our Denver Broncos off the practice field or the fans from attending.
Yep, as Richie Cozzolino shows us from Broncos headquarters, the defense is ahead of schedule.
With a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball, it is the Broncos defense that may anchor this team this season.